Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. And note that the meeting will be recorded and posted on the Wheatland County website or via social media. And at this time, I'd like to let Ellen make an introduction, please. Sure. Wait for Ellen, though. Okay, Ellen.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Angie Lucas, the new General Manager of Ag, Protective and Community Services. And I'll just ask Angie to come up and introduce herself. She started yesterday, so this is her second day, but I'll turn it over to Angie just to do a brief introduction.
Good morning, Council. Reeve Costa. Thank you for allowing me to be here today, and to the residents and stakeholders. I'm looking forward to Council. I've read your agenda, and I'm looking forward to hearing what's going on and what you're talking about today. I'm happy to talk to you about anything and introduce myself on a more personal basis. I'm not sure you know where my office is, but I'm on the corner. I will, of course, always make sure Alan knows when you're coming to chat to me, but I'm happy to and excited to get to know you and Wheatland County.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I wish you all the...
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Take care.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are there any additions to the agenda? Alice? Turn your mic on, please.
I would like to put one thing, or a couple of things on agenda. One is the meeting with Roy Clark, a repair that we discussed about water and rocks last council meeting. I'd like to bring everybody up to date on that. And a discussion about possible 2.1A. I could do it then. It will be a discussion and a request for payment, so maybe we better.
Just do it part of your report.
Yeah. For the report? Okay. And the other part was I've been getting calls about possible closure of the Clooney transfer site, so I'd like a discussion about that. So, new business, would it be? Or do
I leave that part of your
report? And I have a few road gravel. I can maybe bring that up when Dave's in doing his report.
Yes.
Okay, and that's everything for me.
Yes, I would like to have item 2.3C removed from the agenda.
What's that?
I would like to have item 2.3C removed from the agenda.
How do we do that?
It's a simple request to remove it and notify the repair that she will not be coming in.
What's this?
It's just a simple removal, and you can notify her that she won't be coming in.
We will,
I have.
This is to do with appointment at 10:30.
Right.
I haven't been informed of that, so we'll just wait till 10:30 and see if she comes in for the appointment.
No.
And if nobody comes in, then I'll take it off, but I
No,
really
actually,
don't wanna
there's a
take
group
it
of
off.
individuals. It's pertaining to a matter that, I guess I have a couple questions pertaining to it. First of all, I'd like to know who had permission to put a personal letter written to me on the website? And who
Let's,
did that?
We'll talk about it there and then, okay?
No, we won't be talking
We
about it
weren't-
now.
I haven't got an approved agenda yet, Brenda.
I know I'm asking for something to be removed off, and there's ratepayers here. In fact, the Rural Crime Watch is here to also ask for that.
So you want it removed, but you also want to talk about it.
No, I'm removing it. That's fine. Remove it. The Rural Crime Watch organization is in the audience, and they haven't had a chance to deal with the situation, and I've dealt with the situation through them. And so they would require time to deal with their situation, and it's not a matter that's addressed to council. Both the facts and the letter are addressed to me, and I never gave permission for anybody to put it on the website. So I'm not sure how it ended up here on this agenda.
Ellen, can I ask your advice? I know how I put things on the agenda, but I don't know how to take things off, especially taking it off when it was requested by another person.
That's simply a motion to council to
Okay,
approve the
we'll leave
agenda.
it a motion to council then. Brenda's moved to I'm thinking to remove item 2.3C from the agenda. Is that your motion, Brenda?
Yes, that's my motion, so that the organization, the third-party organization involved
Okay.
has an opportunity to deal with it.
And reasons? You moved, now you can say your reason why you want it removed.
I want it removed because it has nothing to do with council, firstly. It's a third-party organization and a member that decided that for whatever reason she did. And I've spoke with Rural Crime Watch. I was asked by the president, not by herself. And what I was told and is what I did. And I don't really need to speak any more about it. Rural Crime Watch would like to deal with it, and they haven't had an opportunity
Okay.
since their last meeting.
We don't want to need to get into the meat of the thing.
Exactly.
The thing is, you want it removed when another person put it on.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been informed as the chairman by this person that they want it off. Okay, is there any other discussion?
What was that? You chairman of what?
Council. She asked to put it on, and it's on. This is council meeting, right? And it was asked to be put on here. Okay? And that person hasn't asked to take it off, as far as I know.
It should have never been allowed on.
Ratepayers can make appointments to come to the meetings.
Yeah, there was a few
No
things.
different, okay? Bernice?
Because of, through the chair, because of the letter that I read, I would like to hear the other side of the story from the
It's not your letter.
Crime Watch.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. There was a letter put it on the website without my permission. It was CC'd to the Times and the Standard, which they cannot print because they need my permission to do so. There has been a law broken here at the county who you put my letter on the website without my permission. In fact, you never even gave, I got the letter via the same email as the rest of you, and I should have had the courtesy to have the letter firstmost and address Miss Eileen Walker. And that courtesy was not done through our CAO. He just sent it as a blank email. And
Per the request on the letter. But
Right.
at any rate, I don't want to get into the meat of it, Brenda.
well, there is no
there any
meat of
more
it. My lawyer
questions
says you've
why
broken the
this
law.
should be on the agenda?
Just so you know, my lawyer has stated, I forwarded it to my lawyer, and
Sure.
there has been a law broken. And actually,
Like I said, I don't want the meat of it. Do council want to have it on the agenda? Unless Ms. Walker shows up or it doesn't show up, then it's automatically not on because it's her time space. 10:30, there's an appointment. See agenda 2.3C, and that's what is talking about. And I'm not aware of any counselor being able to take somebody's appointment away from them. So if she shows up, I'm thinking she can have her spot. If she doesn't show up, evidently, there'll be no spot there. That's my take on it.
why is council entertaining something that I have dealt with and it's a personal matter?
Okay, Brenda?
I asked
Any
a
other
question.
discussion?
No, you didn't answer. I would like an answer. Why is council entertaining a personal
This
item?
is, as far as council knows, I don't know what Eileen Walker's coming in here to speak about. She has an appointment. And she's wrote a letter, yes, but I don't know what her thing is.
The letter
And
is
we'll give, I'm
connected to
saying,
it.
I'll give her the courtesy of her appointment if she shows up. If she doesn't show up, then there is no appointment. I don't know what she's gonna talk about. And she hasn't phoned me or the CAO. Ellen, has Eileen Walker phoned you and asked to get this removed from the,
I have not talked to Eileen Walker, no.
okay.
So how did it get on the appointment then?
She asked to have it on, okay?
So who did she request it to?
To me.
So you have talked to her. So in other words, you did talk to her.
As far as I know, she is coming here at the appointment. She has not phoned me back and said she is not coming.
And I'm
Okay?
asking for it
That's
to be
my
removed.
point.
So you put it on for her without even giving me a call or addressing the letter.
That's what the appointment was for. Is there any other discussion? I'm going to call for the question. Don, you want anything to say?
Dewey, there, it's working. Brenda made a motion, let's call the vote.
That's what I'm going to do. Brenda's called the motion to have it removed. All in favor? Opposed? Stays on. Any other additions to the agenda? Alan?
I have an addition, Mr. Chairman, under item 3.4C, point 3, request from the town of Strathmore on the regional recreation facility in-kind services.
3,
And there is a handout that we'll hand out.
3C.
There is a handout that we'll hand out at the time.
3.4C3. Okay. Town of Strathmore. Okay, anything else? Ben?
If nothing else, I'll move the amended agenda.
Okay, Ben's moved. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, March 27th, 2017, special council meeting minutes. Ben has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? Alice? What's that?
It's the next one.
Okay, no questions of the special meeting? Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. And the April 4th, 2017, regular council meeting minutes, Alice.
It goes back to a motion I made, I think it's the second last page, on the costs of,
Can you just give us a number, please?
okay, let's go, I'll just go there. I did have it written down, but I don't see my note. Resolution 170436, no, 35. That's page 17. When I requested to defer the following agenda item, I didn't mention May the 2nd. I deferred it to meet with planners, like the committee of the whole, to go over the fee schedule, because there's quite a lot of fees to go over. And I don't know where that came from, because I didn't mention May the 2nd, so it isn't quite what I said.
So you wanted it out of council of the whole,
Yeah.
committee of the whole?
Yeah, committee of the whole. So we could have a good discussion with planning on the fee schedules. Because at the time, I hadn't even had time to read it and study it, so that was my request.
Was that was the meeting I chaired?
Yes.
When we discussed it, the comment that I made from the chair was that to hold it over to the next meeting, and everybody take that schedule of fees home, go through it, and if there was any issue with any of the fees, to bring it back to the meeting. So we didn't have to go through the whole thing point by point.
I think I was at that meeting, April 4th. Brenda?
Okay, that's not the one that I'm.
Yeah.
And it was also mentioned at another meeting when we were in with planning under the land use bylaw, that Gary thought that it was, Gary Malenka had suggested that that would be a good idea to sit down and go through the fees and some explanation. However, I have been checking the fees over, and it might be wise to do so because there's, I noticed on the fee schedule, there's charges for agriculture buildings and all sorts of different things. And I've been comparing them to Vulcan and Newell. And there may be some questions as to why we're charging twice as much for different items. So I would like to have that conversation as well.
So to change the minutes or say the minutes aren't correct, would it be fitting that we, Ellen?
So at 2 o'clock, we have the planning staff coming in as well as the other staff to speak to any, as requested by council. They will be here. You can ask any questions you want.
Would that be sufficient, Ellis? If we had enough time, if we don't have enough time, then we'll make a motion to hold it over to committee of the whole.
Well,
Otherwise, I'm going to ask for a motion to put this to committee of the whole, because I'm thinking if the motion wasn't that clear, maybe it wasn't that clear when it was voted on.
that could have been, that was what I
Okay.
was concerned about. Maybe I didn't make myself clear enough. But I felt it's going to be quite a conversation because at the planning, I would like to ask planning why certain fees are being charged. So it's going to be a
That's,
kind of a broad
that's,
discussion.
that's your job.
Yeah,
So how about we go to it, and when we get there, and if we don't have enough time, we'll ask for motion then to go to committee of the whole. And we'll go with it today, being that it's on the agenda. And if we find we don't have enough time, we just heard that at 2 o'clock, staff is going to be in here to talk about it. And that's, I don't know, could be the last item of the day, I don't know.
I,
Or do
well,
you-
I don't think you're going to have enough time to go through all those, the fee schedule that's in front of us, or discuss what's going on in other counties for the same, work. So I would just as soon it go right over to committee of a whole, and then we have the opportunity to really sit down and get to the bottom of a lot of it. I've been getting complaints about the costing to the public, so.
Before we get into the meat of it, how about you
Yeah.
make a motion then?
Through the chair, point of order, through the chair, the agenda was adopted as amended. That wasn't part of the amendment, so if you wait till you get to 2(3)G, when you come to that point, then you can make a motion to hold it over to another meeting. But it's on the agenda, and the agenda has been adopted.
No,
So
it hasn't. You haven't voted on it yet.
Agenda's been voted on.
yes, it
I'm
has, the
sorry.
amended agenda. So just wait till you get to 3G, and at that time, move it to the next, whenever.
Do you want your motion? Do you want your?
Okay,
As part
you're
of-
right. I apologize. You're right. We did move it. I meant, we hadn't approved the minutes, right?
Okay, so we'll just leave the minutes as they are. We're discussing the minutes.
The
now.
minutes, yes, you're right.
Okay, so
Not the
you're
agenda.
thinking there was a little confusion over your motion.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is scheduled today, as Ben has just pointed out. And the agenda's been adopted. Any other discussion? Questions or concerns about the minutes? I think Ben moved them.
Yep.
All in favor? Carried. New business, request for decision, 2017 library funding. Is there a 9? Oh, there is. I keep looking at 9:30. Sorry, Marcy. We're past 9. It's your turn. Yes.
Good morning, Council
Good morning.
and residents. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the Community Enhancement Regional Board, and we've had a good year, challenging year, but it was a very good year. And we have got together our recommendations. We were able to go through this year. We were still able to make our recommendations to Council with just 3 meetings. Once again, but we had $1.2 million in requests this year came to us for community enhancement funding. And as noted in your documentation, there was $385,000 available. So a much more challenging year for us. Wonderful group of people to work with. It's a wonderful board, and I think it's quite incredible to see that we've got 14 people coming together and working together to make these recommendations to you. So we hope that you're in favor of them. So we met at the County Administration Office on February 15th, 22nd, and March 22nd to review, evaluate, and prioritize and decide the distribution of these funds for the 2017 program year. So there were 63 applications for total grant funds of, I was short, it was $1,115,876.86. So to guide us through this process this year, one of the meetings that we took some time in one of our meetings to establish core values. And so that we had something to come back to for helping us make our decisions, and hopefully something going forward for people. So our core value statement we agreed upon is as follows. With respect, integrity, and fairness, the Community Enhancement Regional Board will responsibly serve and strengthen Wheatland County through innovation and flexibility. And we will use that as we apply it to the funds. From the 63 applications, the committee is recommending funding for 48 applications totaling $345,331,000. 15 community enhancement grant funding applications are being proposed to be declined. The board respectfully submits the attached recommendations to Wheatland County Council for consideration for funding. The board has followed its guidelines in making these recommendations and extends its appreciation and thanks to County Council for the opportunity to be a part of this program and serve you in this way.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Through the chair, just one for clarification. I don't know if it's to Marcy or to the staff, but I was at a meeting in Hazard of community groups that were discussing their next year and how they're going to operate. When they were discussing the enhancement regional one, there was some comment that the CRISP funding was part of that discussion, and there was some issue around some of the CRISP. And I just wanted some clarification. To my knowledge, the CRISP funding is not part of, and that shouldn't be part of the determining factors when they're looking at the.
And I could probably speak to that. It was brought up because it was something new that several of the board members were unaware of, and they were advised by Jim and Jessica, and it was in several of our conversations that it was not part of their decision-making process. It was a totally separate process compared to the CURB funding. Totally separate funding, and it was not to be meant to be used in any of their determinations. Okay. And that was brought up at all 3 meetings as a reminder.
Good enough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, Brenda?
Yes, some of these organizations are repeated every year. There are some that have received funding every year. And I was asked the question why some organizations have never been ever granted any monies at all, and yet some of these are repetitive, and some organizations have applied and never received any monies over 5 years, but others have received it repetitively.
Okay. I think each year we look at the applications that come in are looked at independently, and it goes forth on some of the criteria. I'm not sure which ones that you were telling that have applied repeated times and haven't received it. Quite possibly when people haven't received it is we felt that it was outside of our mandate, or it didn't meet some of the requirements that the board had done.
Well, and that being said, as I sit here and I read the project description, their project descriptions were identical. So I can understand when they read this and they see it year after year that it's going to certain ones. So you may reconsider or maybe check or come up with something.
Okay, I would probably want to talk about that, Brenda, specifically if it was, and I think we're very open. One of the things that I really appreciate that I see as a new thing growing with this board is their ability of going back into their communities to talk with the different organizations, and actually rather at times than us making the decisions without advising them, we have gone back to the communities and said, what are your priorities? Because we've got these restricted funds to be able to bring out to the communities, out of all the projects that your community has submitted, which ones would you like funded? And we've also made it based on then that feedback from the communities. So that has, where we had gone in one direction, we totally took motions back and re-examined it then again because we hadn't made a final motion on it as a board, and revisited. And that's happened more than once. I've seen the members of the board go out, have conversations with their community, and then they've had a whole change so that we were able to work and to serve the whole county rather than just serving individuals. So, and I really see that as a presence when we're together, that they're looking at the county as a whole rather than just going for their individual communities. And I think that's a marvelous thing, in my opinion.
Yes, I think so too. Any other questions? Council's wishes?
Just a comment. I agree with, excuse me, I agree with Marcy, and I really respect the committee and where they're coming from and the work that they do to put this all together. And that was one of the reasons we put that committee together, so it didn't become a political issue, so that I know I've had members come and talk to me too, but I won't discuss it with them. I just tell them, if you want it, you apply for it, and they have their mandate. They look at it and they bring it forward, and it keeps it out of the political realm, and I hope we always keep it out of there. So I believe you guys are doing a wonderful job in doing it. I'm sure it's a big job when you're looking at a little over $1 million in applications and you only have a little over 300,000 to distribute. So thank you very much for what you've done, and I'll put a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation.
Okay, any questions? Brenda?
Just a point of clarification for Marcy. I was just asked by certain groups as the results. It was not anything political or anything else. They just noticed and they read the same information that I read, and that's it. So it was not a political thing. I was just asked by certain organizations that have not received funding over the past 3 years and continue to submit. So.
Okay. One of the things that I'd like to say too is having Jessica there has really helped us too, and I think she's made herself very available to the community too for going back. And I think that she really has worked to clarify so that when stuff comes to us, that there is the consistency in what is coming forward. We also receive several requests from municipalities that do serve the ratepayers here within Wheatland County. But we're unsure of the numbers of county ratepayers that are impacted with those requests. And we felt that because I know one of the conversations we had is because there are limited funds. We really want to see that it is, the ratepayers are, the advantage goes to those ratepayers. But we have made a recommendation, and I think Jessica's doing this with regards to those other municipalities or other organizations, that we'd like to know just exactly how many of the county ratepayers are taking advantage of their programs or services, and just as part of to help us with our decision-making process, because we're finding that there's, I think we're only going to see more increase in people coming for this funding. So we're looking for tools and ways to do it better to help us in that decision-making process.
Thanks for the answer, Marcy. Thank you.
Through the chair. Marcy, there's a couple here that they were given money, but it requires council approval before it can go through. If they don't get the approval, what happens to that money?
I'm going to defer to Jessica.
Through the chair, I can answer that. They've been informed that if their motion, they're going to request council give them approval to do something, those particular ones are in Speargrass. If they are not given approval, then that money remains with the CURB board and it will be spent next year with CURB. It will get re-divvied out to other organizations.
So just added to next year's.
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
And that's been very clear. It's been made very clear to them that it's up to council to give them that approval.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Ben's moved. All in favor? Carried. Thanks so much, Marcy.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
9:30, Planning and Development. We have an appointment, 2.3B.
Just gonna bring it on here. No, it's just loading. Yeah, just loading the computer. Just 1 minute.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. So the request for decision, the subject is council review of the draft land use bylaw, the approved second reading draft for third and final reading. Our recommendation is that council provide third and final reading of the land use bylaw. The bylaw is for the purpose of adopting land use bylaw 2016-01, and this would also repeal the existing land use bylaw 2007-56 with amendments. The relevant policies applicable to this decision would be the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Municipal Development Plan, the current Land Use Bylaw 2007-56, and the draft Land Use Bylaw 2016-01. In terms of strategic relevance to the Wheatland County Strategic Plan, Section 6.06 notes that the updated Land Use Bylaw will update and improve planning and development procedures and regulations in respect of all development within Wheatland County. There's 3 options for council's consideration. Option 1, approve the recommendations as proposed. Option 2, not approve the recommendations. Or option 3, approve an alternative recommendation of council's choosing. In terms of the implications of the recommendation that was made, Land Use Bylaw 2016-01 will be adopted and its rules and regulations will be in effect as of third reading approval. And Land Use Bylaw 2007-56 will be repealed upon adoption. In terms of follow-up actions, staff will begin initiating the rollout process of the new land use bylaw in terms of website updates, hard copy changes, redesignations of affected parcels, and the associated mapping changes that will come with the redesignations. That concludes my presentation of the request for decision, and now I'll defer to council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Ellis?
Now, on this, we can't do any corrections, right?
Why?
I understood.
We can amend it in any way. You can
We
vote
can
or
amend
not
it,
vote
so
for
we
it.
can still amend it now? There was one point that was brought up by ratepayer the other day about farm buildings needing permits for everything. And I did read under permits somewhere here that all farm buildings needs permits. And I understood that we weren't doing that. But, so maybe Colton can answer that for me.
Through the chair, in regards to our development permit requirements for farm buildings, nothing's changing from the current land use bylaw in that any building over 100 square feet requires a development permit in terms of setbacks. They might be confusing building permits where there's different building permit requirements for farm buildings, but in terms of development permit requirements, everything's staying the same. Yes, so they'd be getting their development permit, but then there's the subsequent building permits that they'd have to get through the province with safety codes and through Cindy Ramsey here as well. So I think there's different requirements for farm building status, so that might be where I mean, if you're not a planner, development permit, building permit, the language gets tricky for.
And that's probably where it was. Because I read it, I could.
For sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. You need a permit for any farm buildings. And I know Alan was there and it was talking, they were talking about a 10 by 10 little building to put a pump on for irrigation. And I think Alan looked after that. But so it wasn't quite clear, I guess, for them. It's a permit for the other stuff.
And
Okay.
through the
Thank
chair,
you.
thank you. We have exempted grain bins and silos with this draft. Under the current LUB, you technically need to get a permit for those. Not that everybody is doing that, but with this new LUB, they're exempt from requiring development permits.
Okay, Brenda?
So after a recent discussion with regards to tree setbacks, so on a corner, we had discussed this, that you can build a house at 75 feet, and yet the corner for the trees are 125 feet. So you can build a house at 75, or, you know, from the corner. On each corner, you can build it 75 feet away, but you can't put a tree there. You have to be 125 feet back. So I had mentioned this after we had finished up the meeting, and I know Reeve Kestner said he was going to call Alan, and I don't know whether it's done, but I don't see it changed in here. So. And
Through the chair, yeah, no changes have been made in regards to shelter belt setbacks and the setbacks for development from roads. Those were done in consultation with Public Works, and there's been no
Right.
change with that.
so, and Public Works was in that day, but you can put a house in, but you can't put a tree. So it, to me, the irony of that looks a little, so.
Okay, just make it clear, when we were talking about it, Brenda, I didn't say I was going to phone it, Ellen, and change it. All changes come through council, so if you don't like it, it's a perfect opportunity now to amend it and say, I would like to see the setbacks for the trees remain consistent with buildings at 75 feet.
That's what and you
Yeah,
suggested that you were
yeah.
going to
I
contact
said
Alan
was-
and
no,
just to maintain
well.
consistency. So I see it hasn't been done. So, yeah, I guess, would you need a motion to do that? Or are you just going to do that?
It would be, because we need a third motion with, we can't have a motion on changing it because it's not there. But we could have it part of the amendment to the bylaw, okay? So I'll ask first, is anybody against that? Having that amendment included? Okay, so that would be an amendment to the bylaw. Nobody's against it. It would be consistent at 75 feet at the corner. So when we vote third reading for the bylaw, it would be done. Does that make sense? Okay,
I get it, but
okay. Any other Gary?
Morning. Just to provide some background, so it's been a while since first reading came to you, but just so you know, in first reading, the setback for buildings was 125 feet, which was consistent with our current land use bylaw. So through the process from first to third reading before us, it went from 125 down to 75. So just keep that background in mind if you're suggesting that the shelter belt needs to be modified as well to be consistent with the 75 feet. I would agree, it does provide a little bit of confusion on how that works. You would think they would be aligned. But whether you go the 75 or the 125-foot route is for council to decide through an amendment.
Right. So currently, I think in this bylaw, if I remember right, it was 75 feet, same as the, except we had the corner.
Correct.
Well, I just turned mine on, yours went off, so through the chair, all we're doing is making the distance consistent.
And if you go to page 60, 7.12.5, that's shelter belt setbacks from roads. And that's the one that says here, 125 feet from the intersection of 2 or more roads right-of-way, right? And 50 feet from the nearest limit of a public road on the right-of-way. So what the issue is if you look on the corner, you have to put the trees 125 feet back. But if you go back to buildings, you can put a building there. So that's the inconsistency on that corner where you have the major roads intersecting. So if you're going to put a house at 75, why wouldn't you put a trees, or usually in front of the house next to the road? So I think we need to just kind of look at that and change it so that it meets the same.
It's been amended.
Just a personal comment, but we certainly seem to be getting overloaded with rules and regulations and costs. And this is just a personal call.
Any other comments, questions? Brenda?
I have always had issue with the rural business district and rezoning, but I'm well aware that council does not want that changed, so that's just a thought. I do not like the rural business district, so that's been a statement all the way through the procedures, but nobody has seemed to change it, so.
Alice?
And I've had comments from public about that as well, and the cost that is associated if they have a small business and then the business grows and it gets beyond what we classify as small business. It has to then be redesignated to rural district, and the cost of having to do that. It can't be farm. It can't be, it doesn't go to farmland. It goes out of farmland into rural district and at a cost. And by the time you do the engineering and the fees set behind it, that's a concern of people. We're trying to grow economic development, but it's becoming too costly. And it's a constant fee after fee. And when it goes to rural district, it'll end up having to have traffic impacts and studies. Those studies are usually borne by the costs to the person with the application. And then the other part of that is when it comes into planning, then planning sends it out to the engineers, which then costs again for that same study to be looked at. So that's coming down quite often from, people with rural businesses. The cost is driving them out of business. So we should be looking at all of that.
Through the chair, the way it's set up, right now we have secondary use businesses, and they grow, and when they grow to what they outgrow their current situation, that's what this is put in there for, is to help them get to the next one. It doesn't stop them from farming that land. Doesn't matter what the zoning is, you can farm that land. You can farm right up to the business if you want to. That has nothing to do with the agricultural content. All it does is rezone it so that they can move forward with the business that they're trying to expand. I read through it, and I thought it was, we had a couple in here a few weeks ago that were trying to get, and they didn't fit under, and council let it go because under the new bylaw, if this goes through in a year or two, if they look at expanding that, there's a loop, there's not a loophole, there's a designation that they can go to expand their business that they're trying to expand. So I can't see any issue with it.
And through the chair, I'd also add that the redesignation doesn't take it out of farmland from how the province considers it. They look at it just by title and any parcels that are 10 acres or greater. So this, if someone was to redesignate 40 acres to rural business districts, they want to do a fruit winery or some, maybe like a kind of petting zoo type of thing. That wouldn't be, being taken out of ag land would be related to the title, not the zoning.
We'll go back to, so it's on a farm, so now you take that and call it rural business, right? So what you're saying, it's not taking it out of farmland? You don't think?
Through the chair, how the province determines agricultural land and when it's being taken out is they do a title search every year, and any titles in the rural areas that are under 10 acres are considered land that's taken out of farmland. Any titles that are over 10 acres are not. With this zoning, they don't now need to subdivide to a direct control district or do a special zone or parcel, which would take it out of farmland. This zoning actually would increase the opportunity to maintain agricultural land, and it's to promote ag-related businesses and uses within rural areas that don't really fit into our current land use bylaw at all. There's no place for them. So our hope is that it will increase economic opportunity. I totally respect if individuals feel differently on that, but our intention with drafting this was to increase economic opportunity in the county.
Colton, could you just explain an agricultural operation? That's a permitted use.
For sure. An agricultural operation would be any farming activities, just regular farming activities, and they don't require a development permit. Of course, they're all exempt from development permits in section 4.3 of the land use bylaw.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Brenda?
So when you reference the rezoning for rural business district, it doesn't include any agriculture because they're exempt from that. So essentially, this is a business thing, and I guess my problem with it is this also comes with a fee to increase and rezone and do all that. And I have no problem with the process of notifying, the process of bringing it in and notifying the neighbors and doing that. I guess the problem is for me is the cost and associated with it and the rezoning. And for me, that's, it's all right.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'll recommend we take the staff's recommendation and move for third reading.
Third and final
I'd like
reading, including the
Including
recorded vote.
The change that,
Just let me get this straight. Third and final reading, including the amendment of the trees section. And Brenda's asked for a recorded vote. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. Carried. Councillor Vandervelde, Councillor Knight, and Councillor Booth voted in opposition. Councillor Bland, Harwood, Kester, and Armstrong voted in favor.
and I'd just like to make a comment and thank the staff for all the work that they've put into getting this document in place. I think it's the longest since I've sat here that it's taken to get a land use bylaw in place, so thank you. I think it's a good document and I think it's workable. And we can always amend it if it isn't, if something comes up. So thank you very much for what you've done.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the other one. Request for decision, 2017 library funding. 2.2A. Ben?
If nobody else, well, I'll move the recommended action.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Canada Summer Jobs and Summer Temporary Employment Program. Rex?
We're on page 23, Don. I'll move the recommended action.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, County Regional Infrastructure Services Program, CRISP Assistance Grant. Bernice?
Also move the recommendation. I
Okay.
can read it all.
Any questions? Brenda?
Yeah, I guess I have some questions with regards to the actual contract, if you want to pull the contract up on the overhead. I guess I don't have a problem with the funding, but I do have some issues with the contract as to what they need to provide and do. And
What page are you on? Are you on page 27?
well, I have to get it up on, there's a mile of Barry architecture here. I gotta.
The audit, is that what you're talking about, the audit?
No, I'm actually talking about the agreement between the parties. So there's at the end of the, there's an agreement between Carsland and Gleason Community Associations. And it's agreement that, I guess it's on page 43. Yeah, this one here. I wanted to make sure, that the signing authorities, when you mentioned signing authorities in there, I wanted to make sure that it was authorized signing authorities of the organization and not just anybody off the street of that organization. They have to be signing authorities authorized by the organization. And secondly, I would think we would require year-end financials with that. So when they do their reporting on that contract, that we would also request that their year-end financials be included with that. So there's two things that I would like to see changed on the contract for with the organizations. A, that they are proper authorities of the organization that are signing, and B, that we also receive their financial year-end financial statements as well. So, and I'm not sure, Alice, did you go ahead?
Alice?
One of the one thing I had a little bit of trouble with was, and I don't know if I have to excuse myself to talk about it because I belong to the Community Association for Gleason. So, and I would like to say something about the way the funding is on. So should I excuse myself?
If you're in conflict,
and I'll
yes.
go and talk on the other side. Okay?
Okay. I just want to back up to Brenda's questions. So you're saying on the signatory Carsland and District Community Association Agricultural Society, you want a signature on there? Then it says name and title, please print. What are you asking for? Are you asking that these people are voted in, or they have to be approved by us, or what was your ask?
So sorry, Alice. I'm trying to find the actual wording, but it says that it must be signed by the, just let me find the actual wording.
I think what you're referring to, sorry, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're referring to 2 under D.
Yeah. D2,
But that doesn't talk about, all that's talking about is a written list signed by 2 members in the
Right.
form of a letter reporting the projects. That's got nothing to do with signing the agreement.
I know that, but what I'm saying is they should be authorized by that organization.
Okay, Alan?
As far as the agreement goes, in witness whereof the agreement is executed on behalf of the participating municipalities, the hands of their officers duly authorized, we always do a search of the corporation, or in this case, nonprofit corporation, before we get these signed to ensure that they are the duly authorized. Sometimes we find that they were 4 years ago and maybe didn't get updated, so we make sure that they are as per the agreement. All of our agreements say duly authorized. Okay? As far as the financials, that's part of the process, internal process that we use and that Jessica uses to remit the next year's. They need to submit their financial report, the same as they need to do with the province. So we can certainly add that in there, but I believe the duly authorized is already included in here, but we can add it further in there if you like.
Well, I just noticed that upon allocation of the funds, the parties will provide a written list signed by 2 members of the organization. It doesn't say 2 duly authorized members, I guess. So that was one thing, that whether you want to include that in there on number 2. And then the other thing is like I said, it doesn't reflect in this document that we're receiving their financials. We might do it through a different part of our organization, but not through this one. And I think when you're funding as much as funding that we're going out, we should have that in there, that they provide that.
We can certainly add that in there, duly authorized, the same as we have in the other spot. That's not a problem. We'll add that in.
Okay, I'm Vice Chair or Vice President of the Gleason Community Association. And I understand why the county did what they did and how they've put the money out, because they've gone and done an assessment on the buildings and have come up with what each building needs. My beef, I guess I'll have to say, is some of the organizations have gone out and really worked to upgrade the buildings in Gleason. And we've gone out and raised money and then applied for grants. And I'll take the community hall, for instance, which I belong to, and the library has done a tremendous amount of getting funds and moving forwards. I cannot say the same for the Ag Society. We're putting in $1.4 million into this building, and most of the time there is no ice in the building to curl on or to play hockey. And I see they need a new ice machine, but that hasn't been the situation for a number of years. It's just plain not managed well. So I feel the ones that's worked the hardest has got the least money. The ones that have done nothing is getting a lot of money. And I realize these are county buildings, and this is the assessment of what these buildings need to bring them back into shape. But nonetheless, I want my beef heard, okay? The other part of this, too, is if we're going to spend this money each year in the contract or the agreement, I believe we should have something in there that the building must be open and operational for the residents. Because if we're going to put that money into the building, and it's going to be closed, right now, the only time the Ag building's open is for the fair. And if the ladies didn't do the fair, that building would be closed and they wouldn't get their money. That's how little of that is being used. So I think there has to be some kind of something in the agreement on all the buildings, all of those 3 organizations, that they're operational and open for the public and not closed. And if they're closed, then I guess the council needs to look at, are these buildings worth putting that money into? That's my So I would like that added, that they have to be open to the public in that contract with all of them.
So you're saying the skating rink has to be open to the public?
Open and operational, because if we're spending $1.4 million in that building, why is it closed and one thing put on in a year?
I believe the curling rink and skating rink are open for skating, right?
No.
Not in the summertime.
What's happened there is Kara Shepherd has put outside pond hockey. So there's very little going on in the building at all. The fair is about the only thing that we
You're
put
telling
on.
me there's no hockey in the arena all winter long?
No. There hasn't been. I think the ice machine is the issue now.
So through the
And
chair.
no curling. There hasn't been curling for the last,
Through
I don't
the-
know, 6 years. There is ice needed in our communities, but because it's been poorly run, nobody wants to, work with them because nobody opens the door. There's nobody there. The ice isn't put in until February, while curling is pretty near over by then. And the same with the hockey ice. They need hockey ice, but that hasn't been well looked after either.
So through the chair, just so we don't get bogged down with who does and who doesn't. It is municipal land. There's buildings on them. Those
Yes.
buildings do need repairs. They do need maintenance, or they'll fall in on themselves.
Yep.
They do use them periodically through the winter. Whether they're not using them all the time right now, I'm not sure, but I know that they have used them. So before I would change anything here, I would suggest that the community get together with the staff and the council of the area and have a community meeting and discuss the issues that you've brought up, because you're the only one here talking to it. If you were going to speak in opposition to what some of these groups are getting to work on there, they should have been notified so they had a chance to speak to their own building and the reasons for it. So I wouldn't like to see anything change what's on here before council directed staff to deal with the community as a whole.
Thank you. Brenda?
Oh, I would, I'm not really concerned about the funding. The funding's there. It's part of the agreement, the agreement in the thing. And quite frankly, would it be too much to put in that they provide an operational plan and include it with in part of the terms of the agreement? Then that's solved. If they say they're going to run it January to February, and we're going to have this on January to February, they provide an operations, how they're going to operate it. That's pretty simple. They must have some kind of planning.
Well, through the chair, I'm saying that we're only hearing one organization. If the other organizations would have known that we were going to debate that, they may have had representation here. So for this year, I think we leave it as it is, and we set that up and have the community work on it through the year.
I don't think it's any difference if you're going to, Gleason Hall has to provide the same as what the rest, if you ask for how their operation plans for the year. They have to let you know what they're doing. It doesn't matter whether it's Gleason, whether it's Carsland, whether it's anything. If you'd like an operation.
I'm saying I want to hear from the other community groups first before I make that change.
Okay. Points been
Why?
made. Any other discussion or questions? Ellen?
Mr. Chairman, we can make those changes on this agreement and bring it back to the next meeting in June for further discussion, and we can invite sounds like there's concern with the Gleason Arena Association, and we can invite them in to speak to those matters.
These fundings aren't in a...
No, I don't believe so. That's correct.
What's that council feel about that? Money's being spent wisely.
Well,
Can I ask a question, though?
We would invite them all, Mr. Chairman.
All the groups. All the groups, both communities. Does that make sense? Okay. Does that require a motion? I think so. Brenda, your hand's up.
Well, I have a question. Regardless of what organization receives the funding on this thing, all we're asking is for their plan of operations. And I don't think that's a overly onerous request of any organization that's getting taxpayers' dollars. So for me, if they just provide hours of operation throughout the year, I don't think they're getting the funding. That's what it was designated for. The work's been done by our staff, which looks wonderful, plus Barry Architects and all their work. I think we just need to make sure that, A, the operations of whatever it is, I mean, it's not going to be hard for the library to give us their hours of operation and their plan for the year. And I don't think it's going to be hard for any of the organizations to say we put the ice in on January 2nd and we take it out on March 4th at 4 p.m. or any curling association or anything else. And so for me, it's just a matter of hours of operation. And I don't think you need to drag everybody in. They're getting the funding anyways. We just want to know, and we can let the public know that way, that these people are operating their facilities as such. So
Okay. There's been a recommendation from staff, but I don't have a motion to table this for more information. Bernice? Oh, sorry.
I want to, through the chair. Alice, you were saying they haven't curled in the building for 6 years?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bernice, did you make a motion? I didn't hear it. Did you make a motion? And your motion is? Okay. I could have, is anybody interested in
Well,
holding it over?
If Councillor Bland wants to keep the motion, then vote on the motion. If not, she can withdraw her motion.
Well, that's what I took. She's saying she didn't want it in, so I'm not accepting it. I'm not accepting that motion.
Through the chair.
We'll bring back more information and the stats. But I want the associations, the groups to speak to those. We have most of the information, as you know. The library information always gets presented to council on an annual basis. You already have that. The stats on the arenas, we know that, but I would like them to speak to their own representative.
And that's my point. We've had one community group here is making allegations against the other community groups, and we haven't heard from them. We have no idea what they're doing with that, with those buildings or the ice services or anything else. And I know they have used them in the, I'm not going to get into that. So before I make a decision on this, I want to hear from those other groups.
So do we motion to hold it over? We'll hold that discussion over till we have more information. Brenda?
So I prefer to hear from none of the groups. I prefer to hear from none of the groups. I think we just requested his information to the county, and I'm not about to sit here and Mrs. Booth speaking on behalf of one, and I have to listen to another and another and another and another. I prefer not to listen to any of them.
Okay.
I prefer just to put the demands in the contract and be done with it. And then we don't have to try to play one against the other and defend themselves or anything else.
Are you moving to have Councillor Booth's comments stricken from the record?
No.
Well, you're allowing one community group to speak. Why not the rest of them?
Okay.
Mrs. Booth is here on her own will, and she can do as she sees fit and step down and do what she wants.
Okay,
don't want to hear any
no
feedback.
more squibbling here.
Can
We
I?
will, we're holding it over for more information. We'll discuss it next meeting when everybody's here, and we'll talk about who's here to listen to it. You're all counselors, you're all big people, you can be here if you want, okay?
Yeah.
So
Can
we'll
I
move
have-
on to the next thing on the
Do
agenda.
I have my last say?
Would you like to save it for next meeting when everybody's here, Alice? If it's
Well-
on the same topic, I'm moving on.
I know you are, and I'm just saying, I'm giving you the background, and I asked if we could make sure that in the contract, it says these buildings will be operational by the organizations. If we're going to spend the money, then I would like to see that in the contract, and then I don't see where we need the people to be brought in, because if they're going to receive the money, then they have to have them operation and open for the public. That resolves the issue.
Ellen?
Yeah, and we've noted that. We'll add that into this agreement.
Right.
As well as the other comments that were expressed this morning. We'll show those as a red line and changes for council's consideration at the next meeting.
Okay. A break? Sure, let's have a break. And we'll move down to, if I didn't get lost, 2.2D.
I'll move that council approve accommodation expense to staff members.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. 2.2E. Turn your mic on.
Did I say that out loud? Also move the request from the Cheadle Community Club to construct a wood frame building on the lands it leases.
Okay, is there any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Mestakis Institute, F. Brenda?
Also remove the recommended action for the funding for solar.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Alice?
I have a little. I can understand, I guess, why you want to do that, but I was really disappointed in a way that we have the information, we're supplying it to them and paying them to give our information for them to use it. I couldn't see the sense, but maybe I'm just not looking at it right.
Any other questions? Do you want an answer for that?
Well, yeah.
I don't know who can
I
answer
guess
it.
I kind of find it's a little ironic that we have the information, yet we're giving it to them free, and then we're giving them $5,000 to, I guess, put it together. I don't know. Maybe it's just me,
I
but
think
I
this
can't
is
see the
stemming from
thing.
the workshop they had here.
Yeah.
They're making
Yes,
tools.
and they
We
give
don't
us-
have the answers right now. They're developing tools, so council would have a better
plan?
understanding or a plan, a toolbox to apply to future developments of these things.
Well, and to do that toolbox, they need our information. That's what I got out of it. And without that information, they haven't got anything. So I thought we could
Okay.
do our own too. But
Brenda?
anyway, it's up to council. I'm not in favor of it.
Brenda?
Well, I guess my work with Mestakis Institute previous to this and with Action for Agriculture, as it stands now, the ratepayers of Alberta have no information pertaining to solar farms. There's been a rush to sign up people and to make promises and those kind of things. And the Farmers Advocate Office is going around explaining and trying to bring forewarnings and all those kind of things to those about these solar farms. So, and the Mestakis Institute is a well-renowned institute, and I think if they put the information together, and I think that they could make recommendations through the land use planning and those kind of things. I think that's a valuable tool for all ratepayers, including our own, and in other counties. And right now, we do have this problem with massive solar farms wanting to move into Alberta. So that's why I think that it's a good action for us.
Ben?
Yeah, it's just a project, it's to start it. We're not the only municipality they're working with. This is just to get it moving. I think it's 50-some thousand dollars, if I remember reading somewhere in there. 5 is only our contribution. So it's other municipalities, they're looking for them to tie into it too, so I think it's a good idea. We got more questions out there than we have answers, and we don't have all the answers right now, as we found out from those ratepayer meetings that we've had over wind and solar. They don't have all the answers yet.
Okay, any other questions? We don't have a motion yet. Who moved it? Brenda moved it? Okay, sorry, Brenda. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm thinking we're just going to have to go to our appointment at 10:30. It's not quite 10:30 yet. Eileen, do you want to use up your time at 10:30 and start now, or? Okay, just use the mic up there, please, and state your name. Got to turn it on. There's a little button. No. Down, down, down. Yeah. There you go. The red light's on, it's on.
Okay. My name is Eileen Walker. I'm a Wheatland County resident in Division 6. Am I supposed to speak on the letter that was sent to council now?
Eileen, this is, you asked for a time in council here, and it's your time. So you
Okay.
want to speak to that letter, go right ahead.
Okay.
You wrote it.
I just have 3 brief questions that can be answered yes or no to one person. Is that acceptable?
No, this
No,
is
it's
the
ju-
council meeting. If you want an individual answer, you would have to do that outside of council. So everything
Okay.
here is for council information,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
So you can't use it as a forum to talk to anybody. All the things is to council. That's why everything comes to the chair, and it gets disseminated that way. We keep the personal aspects out
Okay.
of it if we can.
All right. I believe everybody on council got a letter from me, and I want to reiterate that letter was a personal letter from myself, not from any organization, so that you have that clear. And the only comments I have is, as far as you can say I'm wrong, the Reeve, okay, I'm going to just say this. Who has been the most involved with the proposed Calgary Region Growth Management Board? I'm not saying anybody. Was there any permission granted to any individual to speak on another individual's behalf? And yeah, I guess, yeah, was the council informed that someone would be speaking in regards to the Calgary Regional Growth Management Board? And, yep, the only other thing that I can say is that the letter was written on my behalf and not Wheatland Rural Crime Watch whatsoever.
Okay, thanks for
Okay.
that, Eileen.
Thank you.
As point of information, council votes every year and organizational. That last year it was the Reeve was to be the spokesperson for council in the county. Any councillors that go out and speak on, like we always do speak, but it's not on behalf of the county, it's on behalf of themselves. It's a personal thing. And I know it is hard to differentiate between a personal comment and a comment coming from a councillor, but we do have personal lives too, and it's, I know people take it, that's what council's doing, but really, council is, the spokesperson is the Reeve, and there's also published minutes on our website if you ever, and the minutes, once they're adopted, that is what everybody agrees to is what was said. I know it's a month later, but that's the way it works, yeah. So that's all I can really say. Brenda?
So, couple of things. The counselor in question, and it was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, I tried to have it struck from the record this morning for you to even speak. I was asked by the president of the organization and for Ms. Walker to stand here and say that she is speaking only on behalf of herself is false, as the letter states, I as vice president. That would be the same as me saying that I'm not a counselor speaking at a meeting. So I did address the organization after, and I was requested by Mrs. President Dorothy Badeau to speak on where we're sitting with the Calgary Growth Management Board and to any other things happening within the Wheatland County. I was allotted 15 minutes, and I did so. I thought it was an excellent meeting. Ms. Walker was the chairman, and I wanted to, first of all, the letter that was given to the county was addressed to me, the facts and the letter, and it has since been, and you CC'd it to the Times and the Standard, and because the letter is written to me, they cannot print it. But I would like to know, I have some questions with regards to staff, to who put it on the website, and who they obtained permission for to do so. So there's two things I would like answers for. Who, and the other reason I also would like to ask is that I was not given the letter or the opportunity to phone Ms. Walker before the CAO sent that out. So I have some questions for staff pertaining to this, and I am very upset that they would put this on because there's a third party involved, which is the Rural Crime Watch. And you know what? They do a lot of good work and they work hard. And for this to be brought to this council and discussed in this matter over a meeting issue shouldn't have happened. And they're here in the audience today to speak to it, and what I did or did not say, they were present at the meeting. But I would like the answer to the question, who put it on the website and who gave permission to put it there?
Okay, Ms. Walker sent that letter to all the council. Everyone got a CC to it, so it's
No, the letter is not CC'd.
I listened to you. Every councillor got it. I phoned Ms. Walker, Mrs. Walker, Eileen, and told her if that was going to be brought up today, it would be best that she would be here to answer for it. And then so talking to her, I said if it's part of the agenda, if she had any concerns with it being part of the agenda and in the package, and she didn't. It's her letter, she wrote it. What she does with it or who she sent it to, I know what the letter says. It is also her letter, she wrote it. It was on the website because it was her appointment. Simple as that. And everybody's read the letter. Okay, so
It no longer
so I don't want to draw this out on who did what or who did this.
No, I'm asking for some answers. Who gave permission to put it on the website?
It was her time to come, and she said she didn't mind to have it on the website.
Who
So we put
authorized
it
it?
on.
No,
What
who's we?
What do you mean we?
Who's we put it on, you said? Who is we? Who put it on the website?
I phoned the staff and said I talked to Eileen, and she said it was okay to put it on the website as part of the agenda package. No different than it is on now, okay? I know you have whatever you have, but that is her letter.
No, it's
She
not.
sent it to everybody, okay?
No, she CC'd it to the Times and the Standard. She requested staff to send a copy.
Everybody has a copy.
She requested the staff to send a copy.
Yeah.
And I would like
Everybody's
to
got
know
it.
why I wasn't notified through the chair to the CAO. Why was I not notified that there was a fax come into this office for me?
I think you were sent it to you.
No.
Same as everybody else.
First of all, the letter was, the fax is addressed to me. My name says Brenda Knight on the fax. The fax is addressed to me, and it states, if I have any problem with county council getting a copy of this letter, please call me, Miss Eileen Walker, at. I was not afforded that opportunity before staff CC'd all of council. And Mr. Parkin is not answering. So who is the one that sent it out, and who gave you permission to do that?
I'll read it here. 2, whoever receives this fax at Wheatland County Office, please disregard earlier fax and distribute revised letter dated 11 p.m. April 23rd. Please ensure that all of the county councillors receive a copy of this letter. If there is any issue in request of doing this, please call me, Eileen, at. Thank you for your assistance.
Yeah, and
That was her thing. It got sent out.
And I was
And
not.
it's done.
Yeah, it's done. But I'm telling you right now, why was I not notified that a fax came into me first? I would like to know that. It's my mail. It's addressed to me. The fax is addressed to me. The letter is addressed to me. And we talk about procedure and protocol, but apparently that doesn't matter. And I've contacted my lawyer. And what you did is put it on the thing was illegal. You've broken laws. So I would like to know who put it on there. And I'm asking for an answer as to who did that and who was responsible for doing that and who sent it out without contacting me first.
As part of, I'll just say again, as part of her instructions.
Yeah, well, I was part of those instructions too. I wasn't afforded the opportunity to phone Miss Walker and talk to her before you all received a copy of it. And I should have at least, since my name is on the fax, I should have had at least been notified that the fax was here. Period. End of story.
Okay.
So through the chair, I'm just, we all got a copy of it. That's right. This letter may have been, or the email, fax, whatever it was, may have had your address on it, but the letter belongs to Mrs. Walker. It's her letter. She decides who she can send it to or who she doesn't want to send it to. She sent it to all of council through administration, which is the proper way to do it as far as I'm concerned. And if you want to make a bigger deal out of it, then I suggest you deal with it the way you have to. But right now isn't the time to do it, because it was we do the same thing to any ratepayer that asks a request and asks to have information sent out to council. That's how
Information
we deal
sent out to council is one thing, but to put it on a public website when the Standard and Times couldn't print it, I'm asking who authorized it to go onto the website, period. Honestly, I don't care whether you get a copy of the letter or not, but from what point did you take it and you put it on? Thirdly, there is some ramifications here because there were some comments made by Ms. Walker in there that could leave her liability. The other thing is there's a third-party involvement here, and whether she may claim that she's not doing it as a third party, it is what it is, and she is involved. So I am asking to know who put it on the website.
This isn't a legal proceedings.
I'm asking for an answer.
What do you want to know? Who put it on the website?
I want to know who put it on the website.
May I interrupt for just a
Go
moment?
ahead.
I gave the permission to put it on the website. Thank you.
But you don't have that ability to do that. It's not up to you what goes on the website. It's up to our council and our staff that determines what's on the agenda. It's not, you can request an appointment here and come and speak on it, Eileen. And I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is that somebody took a letter that was addressed personally to me, whether you give a copy to council or you give a copy to your neighbor, that's what it is. But you don't have the ability to put it on our website. Only our staff and council has that. And I'm asking the question of who did it and who's responsible for it. And I'm not getting an answer. So it's nothing to do with you. That's why. So
If you're looking for somebody to be responsible, I guess it's the Reeve.
So you had
Okay.
it, you requested
What do
Alan
you mean
Parkin?
requested? It's her agenda, her information. That's what we do.
No, that's not
At
what
any
you do.
rate, let's not cloud the issue. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No, yes, I guess I just, it was sent to you, so when you got it, I'm assuming you got it the same time as everyone else, or ahead of time.
Yeah,
Okay?
and it was addressed to me.
It was
and it should
addressed
come
to you,
me. Yeah.
but there was copies to every councillor.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I don't have a problem with that. But you also CC'd it to the Times and the Standard, and they weren't allowed to print it any more than our staff was. So I'm asking for who was responsible for putting it up there. And I guess that the Reeve has admittedly said that it's his responsibility. But there's FOIP around this, and there's laws that were broke. So I would think that there's other issues pertaining to this, Eileen, and it's not.
I better not make a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anything else about this letter? Alice?
I would like to clarify, there was a comment made about me on the first page about interrupting the conversation. And before I spoke or anything, I put my hand up and asked for permission to speak. So I did not, and I was not disrespectful. So I just want to clarify that.
To the chair, is it possible for somebody that was at the meeting, other than Councillor Knight and Eileen Walker, to say anything? I just don't feel I'm getting a complete picture.
Through the chair, as
It's
a point
he
of
said, she
point
said.
of order.
Yeah, no?
As a point of order, I would move to accept this as information only, and if there's any legal challenge or ramifications, then it follows the proper channels. But as for now, it's information.
It's one-sided.
Ben has moved that it's accepted for information. It's a council meeting. Eileen made the ask to come with just her. It wasn't Rural Crime Watchers. It wasn't anybody else. It was her. Nobody else. So it's why people are here. They're here and interested, I'm sure. But the thing is, it was just Eileen. So Ben has moved to accept it for information. Any questions? Brenda?
I agree with Bernice. If Rural Crime Watch would like to speak, I think that they're concerned about this. It's their organization, and it reflects on their organization. So I think if they would like to speak, I would tender that if somebody would like to speak, I guess, if they would like to.
Does any member of council have any qualms about one member of Rural Crime Watcher speaking? That was at the meeting, I'm hearing. Anybody got any qualms? I'll ask one person that was at the meeting if they'd like to speak.
Yeah, my name is Dorothy Bedole. And what I would like to say is one of the questions asked was why Brenda was asked to speak at the meeting. It was because I asked her. I had been at an auction with some of the other members, and we were just in conversation about speakers for meetings. And I asked, what do you think about Brenda coming and talking about the Calgary Planning Board, whatever that is called, and anything else that she would think would be of interest to the members? They thought it was a good idea. I called Brenda because she is the counselor in my division. That's why she was asked. Any
Thanks,
questions?
Any questions for Dorothy? Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of Ben's motion? Carried. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Okay, we've got 15 minutes. Can we, planning in here, can we do E?
Are they an appointment?
Do we
It's a
need
1
it?
o'clock appointment, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
that's a
It's
1
not
o'clock
yet.
appointment?
So if you want to go on to reports, that would be the most appropriate.
Okay, we'll go to reports. Reeves report. I just had it here. Okay, off the top here, our regional partnership meeting, last meeting we had, it was, there was interest in having a barbecue, and Strathmore would look after it on June the 26th. There's a conflict there. I got an email. Does June the 27th work instead? It's a Saturday. Yeah, I think so.
That's a Tuesday.
June?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it is. I'm probably in the wrong month. May, June. Yeah, June the 27th
Yeah, that's a Tuesday.
for the barbecue, the wind-up of the Wheatland Regional Partnership.
It's not the wind-up.
Not the wind-up.
It's just a year.
Summer.
Get together.
Summer get-together. Okay. They asked, there's a conflict, if we could have it on the 27th. Does anyone have any trouble with the 27th?
It's a Tuesday night, last Tuesday of the month.
Okay,
Okay for that.
Yeah.
okay. I'm thinking, okay, I'll tell,
They'll let us know eventually.
they'll send it out. I'll let Michael know. Okay, last, couple weeks ago, I can look it up on my calendar here.
They changed it, I had it in.
Yeah. On the 18th, when there was MPC, I drove to Edmonton. I met with Chief of Staff Keith McLaughlin, Assistant Deputy Gary Sandberg, and the Honorable Shane Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs. And I got there early. I was able to get in early, and it was well after 6. It was at least an hour and a half. I had a visit with him in regards to the Calgary Growth Management Board. We had a frank discussion. As you well know, that the minister is new in this position, and he wanted a little bit of history, which I gladly gave him. And further to that talk, on the 26th, there was a meeting in Calgary at the McDougall Center with the 10 members of the Growth Management Board, plus the minister, plus Gary, plus Keith, and a few others. And the mayors were there, plus CAOs, for the most part. That meeting, I thought, was, nothing was accomplished. It was just a get-together and introducing. But after the meeting, the minister, and as well as Gary, said they're taking our considerations into heart during that public meeting, during that meeting with the mayors. It was noted that the rurals, Foothills, Rocky View, and ourselves would like to have some sort of a voting structure that would give us a little more influence. As you all know, Calgary has the most influence because Calgary has to vote for everything that goes on there. And if they don't, it doesn't work. And the talks went to a veto vote for affected municipalities. One of them was one rural has to vote for the motion, and another one was 80% of the vote instead of the current 2/3, which would effectively mean one of the rurals. The minister and Gary said they're thinking about it. What happens, I don't know. Interesting point at the meeting, Mayor Nenshi said it twice. He doesn't know why Wheatland County is part of this. And I'm thinking in our last letter we got, it was from the minister, and he said because Strathmore's in, we're basically in. So I floated the idea that we, instead of Highway 21 west, it would be a ring around Strathmore and Highway 1. We'll see what happens there too. I said at best Highway 21 was an arbitrary line, like the people in level land or up in the corner there, we have no developments, desires. So that talk is still happening. I don't know how it's coming. And then also that morning, I had a talk with Alan and Ron on valuation of our CAO. And for information, I believe Ron, he had hip surgery, so I'm thinking he's hoping to be here, I think, on the 16th. I don't know if he can make it or not, but that is his day. He wants to come and wrap that up. Okay. And part of our regional partnership meeting, there was an ask there that all the councils, municipalities in the area support a new lodge being built in Strathmore. It's just a letter of support. I can't tell you how much it's going to cost or anything like that, but it's a letter of support that we continue down this road so the ministers know that we're serious about this new building. And where it goes, we're still in negotiations with that, so I don't know. And with that said, I will make a motion that we send a letter of support to Wheatland Housing Management Body in support of the lodge. Is there any discussion on that? Oh, it's on the screen. Okay. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Is there any questions of your Reeve? Brenda?
So on the Calgary Growth Management Board, did you mention any mention of a charter with regards to that? And the corridor that you offered, was that the south of Highway 1 or north of Highway 1? Whereabouts was the approximation of the corridor? And I'm not sure, I believe that earlier you had mentioned that the corridor would include Eagle Lake, and I'm not sure that that should be part of it, I guess.
We just drew a line around Strathmore, a couple miles, and that would take a piece of Eagle Lake in. I said we'd put it around there. The minister's comp and the corridor, I think, was a mile, maybe, on each side of the Highway 1. I wanted it skinny, but I wanted it to connect. And the minister's thought was that maybe too small. It might not look good. So the final decision on the size of it is the minister's. It's not a negotiating thing. I just asked nicely. But what they say it is, so.
Well, and I guess.
I give them my rationale. Eagle Lake's in the plan because Strathmore's close to it and gets a piece of it anyway, if we take a mile. Strathmore's stormwater goes to Eagle Lake, and Strathmore is showing a strong interest in making a bike path and stuff down to Eagle Lake. I didn't think there would be much harm in including it in the growth management plan. It was just the smallest picture we could draw around Strathmore that made it look like something. How it comes out in the future, I don't know. And I don't have a clue when it's going to come out in the future. It's the ball's in their court, and it's up to them. They just said it's going to be done before the next municipal election.
So as a council, I think that we should look at that line and decide as a council whether it'll be appropriate or not appropriate. Because as a council, you've made the suggestion, but it's never come back to say, well, this is going to be looked at or not looked at. So I think that could go to a committee of the whole, and that discussion could be had. Because we still have ratepayers within that association in my division. If you just draw a 2-mile line around Strathmore.
I said a mile.
That's a mile.
At any rate, I talked to Ben about it and a couple others, Alan. The thought was when the regulation comes out and the picture is drawn, council has 60 days as well as all the ratepayers to make application and request a different line. And we thought at that time it would be more beneficial to come up with our hard line and give reasons. This was just the starting point. I'm sure it's not going to be any smaller than what we draw, and it's going to be bigger, and we'll have lots of time to discuss it then. and make a detailed thing, because right now, to be honest with you, we have nothing to critique because they haven't given us anything. So when they give us something, we can critique it and say, I'm sorry, we don't, gosh, we need any more chairs?
Yeah, it looks like it.
I've got a few there. Okay, so there was in no way I wanted to preclude council from anything. Council's going to get its day at this thing, believe me. It's just starting. Any other, Alice?
I know when I talked to him when I was up there, he said he would really like to come down and look at our area, because he really didn't have it in his head exactly what they were trying to do. So he wanted to visually see it. Did he make any suggestion to come down, or did you ask him to?
He said in the summertime, he's going to be touring around and see what the ramifications are. I extended him a warm invitation to spend some time in Wheatland County, and we'll certainly drive him around and show him just what's in the county and why we hold on to agriculture like we do. Okay.
And the rest of the question about a charter, did you discuss that at all?
The minister has to grant the charter, same as city. City doesn't have a charter. They want a charter. They're still in. Just, no. I guess when we get the draft regulation and we got the 60 days, that would be the appropriate time. I don't know if we want to gather any information on the existing charters, what kind of freedom that would give us. If we want to go down that road, knowing that the minister that gives us approval for the charter is the same one that's going to be putting us in the growth management plan. It's the same person, same cabinet, same. They're going to do what they think is best for the province. Any other questions? I'll move my report. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We've got a couple minutes. Make sure everybody's got a chair. Do we have any more chairs? That's all we have? Yeah. Yeah. Which one? Just go ahead. What it is, yeah. Yeah, that's the one. This was the 11 o'clock appointment, right? Okay, it's almost 11. We ready for the 11 o'clock appointment? Jim is gone. Here he comes.
Trying to get through the door.
Okay, thank you. (2.3D). Okay, please make sure your cell phones are turned at least to vibrate, and hats, no hats allowed in council chambers. And everybody else looks like they have shirts on, so we're good to go. Okay, so. Are you going to be presenting, Jim? Okay, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. Pleased to be here to present the request for a decision with regards to the Calgary Region Airshed Zone Services funding. I'm going to read the recommendation, Mr. Chairman. The council approved contracting the Calgary Region Airshed Zone, CRAZ, for services totaling $4,675. That involves 1 month of monitoring the BioCycle Solutions Limited compost facility with a mobile air monitoring lab in the amount of $4,175 and 1 24-hour volatile organic compound sample. Further, the Council approved 1 additional VOC sample for $500 with funding to come from the Operating Continuity Reserve. Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to briefly go through the background information, provide a little bit further details on this particular matter. The background is this pertains to the BioCycle Solutions Limited compost facility located on the southwest of 72524, which is 4 miles northeast of Strathmore. The feedstocks acceptable for composting are biosolids, which is dewatered sludge, food waste from grocer, grass clippings and yard waste, animal manures, wood chips, drywall, animal bedding, hatchery waste, and milk processing waste. In early 2016, Wheatland County became aware that the facility was mixing sulfur. Wheatland County confirmed with Alberta Environment and Parks that the compost facility has a Class 2 compost permit, allowing them to process up to 20,000 tons of feedstock and 10,000 tons of finished compost product. Mr. Chairman, in response to complaints received, we did further inquiries with Alberta Environment and Parks with regards to air testing, and that they usually monitor sites, but was unsure if air testing machines would be able to detect anything from the compost facility. The facility assumed new ownership in 2012. So, Mr. Chairman, Wheatland County, as a result of the complaints come in, started formally logging complaints since January the 1st, 2015. We received 20 complaints as we logged them since that date. But to be clear, Mr. Chairman, on February the 2016, there was a request for a decision presented to Council, and there was 34 separate names referenced and attached to a complaint that was issued at that time. So that gives us a total of 54 of people that have had concerns with regards to odor that Council has been made aware of. There's also been, Mr. Chairman, on April the 4th, there was approximately half a dozen people had come into the Council meeting public hearing to speak to the nuisance and unsightly bylaw, and particularly the nuisance portion of that bylaw during that time, and subsequent to your direction, Mr. Chairman, and that is of our Chief Administrative Officer, I have contacted those people to advise them of the meeting today if they wish to speak at this time, being that they were unable to speak at that time due to a time confusion. So I think, Mr. Chairman, that kind of gives an overview of the request for decision. If there's particular inquiries, I've asked Public Health Inspector to come. I've asked Alberta Environment to come as well, so they can address areas of their expertise. Development Officer Suzanne Hayes is here as well. She can also answer any inquiries as pertains to the land use bylaw and the permitting that is covered under that particular law of ours, Mr. Chairman. So I think with that said, the recommendation is in front of you. The idea is to be able to move forward with this if it has Council's blessing upon their consideration. So I think, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting a sore back. You're holding that baby there. Do you want a chair? Just grab one of these ones here.
I fear if I sit down, she'll start making noise.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just to let Council know a little bit of background, we had some ratepayers here when we were doing the public hearing for the nuisance and unsightly bylaw. I'm thinking some of them are here. I can't really see them now. There's one there. Johnny was here. Anyway, there was half a dozen people sitting there, and I went and talked to them after, and they were here for the public hearing. And this was in the afternoon, and we had the public hearing in the morning. And they were a little bit upset and showed me the newspaper clipping where it was advertised for 1 o'clock. And after talking with them some more, I learned why they were really here. And I said, maybe we should be talking to Jim and setting up an appointment. And that has come together. And further conversations with Jim so this doesn't happen again, the public hearings being done, staff will try and schedule all public hearings at 1 o'clock, just so that this doesn't happen again. And I don't know if any member of council, it's council's power to redo this public hearing and do it over again with the public's involvement. But I'll just ask that question right now without a vote, just a straw vote. Would anyone like to see this? And I'll ask the public here too, if you would like to redo the public hearing for the nuisance and unsightly premise bylaw. If not, we'll just leave it the way it is. Otherwise, I'm sure we could go down that road again if council makes a motion. Brenda.
So after looking at the unsightly and bylaw, my question be, these people are here regarding a corporate organization that operates within our county, and they actually answer to Alberta Environment. And as long as they're meeting the needs of Alberta Environment, then they seem to be flying under the radar. They're supposed to be a good corporate neighbor, and I have our unsightly and noise bylaw would not supersede Alberta Environment, and that's my concern. If it did, then yes, I'm looking forward to opening the public hearing. But because this is an operation through the provincial government, I don't see where it would be necessary to do. I don't think that our bylaws has any teeth for this operation.
I don't think the sightly bylaw has any teeth. I'm just saying as a procedural move, we had a public hearing that was advertised. Does council want to redo it? That's all I'm asking. So any member of the public like to have that bylaw redone, public hearing? If not, we'll leave it go and we'll know into the future to be a little more vigilant on our advertising. And we'll try and adhere to the policy that 1 o'clock for all public hearings. Okay. Oh, well, sorry, I didn't see you over there.
I'm just wondering, what you're saying is this hearing would be
No.
or more people to be involved?
What precipitated this was the unsightly and nuisance bylaw, and we had a public hearing for it. And people come to speak at that, thinking that was the place to speak for the compost thing. And after talking to them, determined really it has no function in the nuisance and unsightly premise thing, but it has its own merits to have soil sampling or air quality or whatever council comes to. But in moving into the future, I realized that there was people come for a public hearing and it was closed, and that's not good. Okay, but if anybody would like to speak specifically to the public hearing for the unsightly thing, then if there's enough support, I would get council to make a motion. But if there's not a support so much for that, not much has changed. We had an unsightly one and really not a heck of a lot changed in it. That is still there, and it got third reading. It is still a bylaw in the county. But this here is a separate issue. They really come in for the waste, the smell and everything that goes on with it.
So if we want another meeting for the smell?
No, this is it right now.
This is it. Okay.
This is it.
Perfect.
Okay, not seeing anything. We'll move forward on.
Yeah, through the chair, I think reopening the other one would muddy the waters for what we're looking at. It wouldn't have any effect on what we're dealing with here. No. So I think what we did, we might have made a mistake and we're sorry for that, but it won't affect what's going on here.
Okay. Jim?
Mr. Chairman, at the April 4th council meeting, there was a number of inquiries pertaining to the resolution. Would you like me to provide any of that information?
Please. Yes, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, the April 4th council meeting, a number of inquiries came forward from that meeting, which I addressed in consultation with the Calgary Region Airshed Zone representative, and I just want to identify those briefly for us here. So the question was, what is the total estimate of cost for deployment and monitoring? We've talked about that at the first part of the RFD, which is $4,175, with an additional $500 a sample for the volatile organic compound testing. The recommended time period and length of time for the mobile air monitoring lab is for 1 month during June or July. When is the earliest time that CRAZ, Calgary Region Airshed Zone, that's their acronym, will be available to commence monitoring this facility? CRAZ can deploy the monitoring station at the beginning of June 2017. What are the recommended air pollutants to be monitored at this site? So continuous monitoring of H2S with meteorological parameters, temperature and wind at 1 minute resolution and 1 24-hour volatile organic compound sample. Is the CRAZ mobile air monitoring lab able to measure VOCs? And if so, can this be included in the cost estimate? Yes, and that's the additional cost of $500. Upon completion of the service, when will the report findings be available? The report will be provided within 30 days of the last day of monitoring. Will recommendations be provided as part of the report pertaining to these findings? Yes. The monitoring results will provide recommendations. Can the report provide information on health risks to humans and wildlife in respect of the findings? Monitoring report will not provide a health risk assessment. However, the monitoring data will be compared to Alberta ambient air quality standards and Texas Commission environmental quality levels. I'll do one more, Mr. Chairman, then I'm going to ask our public health inspector just talk a little bit more about the health aspects of this. So the last question is, what is the distance between the mobile air monitoring lab and the biocycle facility? This will be determined prior to the deployment. An ideal site will be selected after reviewing the wind and topographic features in the vicinity of the biocycle facility. So, Mr. Chairman, I just asked our public health inspector if he could talk a little bit about the health risks and some of the background on that.
Well, thank you. So just to kind of give a little bit more detail on the health risk and health significance. So our department can look at those results and probably generalize some sort of risk and whether there is or isn't, and give recommendations based on those findings or results from that from the study or from the air quality assessment, basically. So we can give a level of health risk. To wildlife, probably not, but for human health, yes.
Is there any questions? I don't believe you give your name.
Oh, sorry, Norman Cruzel, health inspector out of Strathmore.
Okay. Alice?
My question, I know we're talking about biosolids, but there's more than, pardon?
Biocycle.
Oh, biocycle. Sorry. But there's more than them in the area. So my concern is how are you going to assess this one area when we have 2 other feedlots to the west of it that is going to be feeding into that air quality as well. So I'm kind of thinking if we want to get a really good look at this whole area, it should be taken, the air quality should be taken from those other sites as well, so that you can put it all together in a coherent, air quality. I don't know what Jim has got to say, if it's just this one area, or are we going to look at the surrounding issues? And we also get some coming out of Strathmore. If you get the wind in the right direction, we also get some of that smell coming across through Wheatland County. So can we look at a broader air quality gathering?
So through the chair, this inquiry was based, Mr. Chairman, on CRAS doing the monitoring, and they've identified that they can do that, and with the information that I provided, Mr. Chairman, here. We have not inquired if they can do a broader scope monitoring, and I do not have any information that would pertain to the effects, pro or con, to doing that. We had specifically asked about the monitoring of this facility, Mr. Chairman. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Rex?
Well, I mean, for me, we don't get this kind of attendance for a public meeting because of a feedlot. We've had feedlots in this area for forever. We all know that they're managed, their manure is managed. We know that there's a smell, and I think everybody here knows the difference between the feedlot and this biocycle facility. And the biocycle facility uses products and their management to make the product. But I think the part of the problem could be the management of what they're doing there that creates the smell, the products that they're adding in that creates the smell. I don't think anybody here is worried about the feedlot right now. I think they're worried about what they can do to try and, we're trying to establish right now some sort of gauge, some sort of meter that allows us to say, okay, there's definitely some sort of an issue here that is measured. And I think there's been lots of statements made about what is a health issue and what isn't. I think that we can all agree we're talking about, you know, it's been said that smell is not a health issue. Well, until you live beside it and you're literally dry heaving from that smell versus, oh, that doesn't smell good. There's a difference. It's a common sense approach to an issue that we need to look at. And I really don't want to cloud it with the feedlots. I'm not saying feedlots don't bring smell. I'm not saying that other facilities don't bring smell, but we're all here today to concentrate on one issue. And it is to identify what we can do to make this better, because this community has suffered way too long trying to live with this.
Ben?
Mr. Chair, if I can add to what Rex said. Right now, there's a truck every 2 minutes going in there to remove product out of there.
Okay.
So by June, I don't know what's going to be left to even smell.
Okay. I'd like to limit comments from our guests. If you want, put your hand up and I'll invite you to the podium. Okay. We're here is to gather facts. Before we get too far, I have one question of Norman, is it? If we were to do this CRAS sampling, air quality monitoring, would that be a benefit to Alberta Health to have them numbers, or is it just
To answer that question, we basically would look at the data, right, and interpret the data. So in essence, that would be our focus at this point, would be the data that's collected from the CRAS monitoring station. We would interpret those results and what they mean to public health, if that answers your question.
yeah? So you see a need for it, or this data would be nice to have, or?
It really all depends on, I guess, what the public wants and what they need. So if there is a concern regarding, you know, VOCs and particulate matter and that kind of stuff, it may be a benefit to help determine whether that is an issue or not, and clarify the concern a little bit more.
Okay.
For them. So.
Okay. Thanks.
So,
sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I echo Rex's thoughts, but I had another. And looking at all the people that are standing in here, I can remember going to an open house, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever the new owners took over the place, and there was similar questions came up at that time, and there was a definite promise from the owners of that operation that they would handle the smell. There would be that the issues that came up there would not be an issue. And what I'm seeing today, they have not done anything to follow up on what they had promised a few years ago. So I think it is a big issue, and I haven't gone through there to smell it. I know I've gone by there and got whiffs of it, but living by it would probably be an issue. But I'm really concerned that the owner has not lived up to the promises they made a few years ago.
Okay. We're limited on time, and we had some ratepayers wanted to make some statements, and I would like to have you come up and do that so Alberta Environment can hear it. And while they're coming up, Brenda, you have a question?
I actually have some questions for the Alberta Environment rep here.
Okay.
So if he could, whenever.
We'll get you done for sure. Okay, does anyone want to make a statement? She's coming. Okay. Okay.
What I have to say is mostly in pictures, so is it okay if I...
Yeah, if you got some pictures, that'd be fine.
Okay.
State your name.
My name is Betty Lou Mercer. We live directly north of the plant.
Well, Jim's loading this down, just so everyone's clear, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to say is right. Wheatland County can't say a lot about this facility. It's a provincial regulated site. Alberta Health, Alberta Environment, they're all the people here that you have to talk to and let them know so that they can come down and see if there's a concern. If there's, you believe, a change of use, if you think the smell has gotten worse over the years, it's bigger, all them factors go into what they need all the facts they can get. So please get a card from them and make sure your feelings are written down and known to all those two players for sure, Alberta Environment and Alberta Health. Okay, while they're loading, go ahead.
We pay our taxes to you people.
Yeah.
Our property is being devaluated because of this facility. We're involved.
Not to say we're not involved. We're going to facilitate. Okay. 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 Thanks. We're endeavoring to get the players together here to facilitate a meeting, and I understand your concerns. Name?
Do they have a representative here?
Alberta Health is right behind you.
The facility itself.
I don't know.
So doesn't that speak to the arrogance?
There's a hand. There's a hand up back there.
Maybe we should get you guys up here.
Yeah. We'll take turns. We got Mrs. Mercer up here. Miss Mercer got some pictures. It's her floor.
Okay, what I would like to do is propose that
Could you just turn the lights off behind you there, the guy with the vest on, please?
if the Department of Environment is assuming or hoping or seeing to it that these people are being good neighbors, they are not being good neighbors to us at all, and I will show you why. And I think some of the other neighbors around us feel the same way. This is the biocycle facility here. This is our field covered with plastic, and that picture was taken this spring. That's another picture of it. John and Madonna Kelvin rent this field from us, and there is a crop planted in there. Here is from the middle of the field, this is the biocycle facility. This is a bunch of seagulls. They cleaned out part of John's crop. He had to reseed. There it is again. Here's more seagulls out in the field. And this is a little bit closer to the facility. And this is on the west side of the facility. Now, I'm not sure why, I don't know how it operates, so I'm not sure what this equipment is doing there that doesn't seem to work, but it is there. Okay, now I have to, I've got to go to a different file here, so I'm thinking it's this one. Yes, it is. This won't take long if my hand wasn't shaking. Okay, now this is pictures taken last summer. This summer isn't here yet, so this is last summer. We had a terrible problem with flies, and I wear glasses. When I went out in the yard, the flies would get under my glasses and buzz around and try and get in my mouth. This is the west door, no, the east door that we use most of the time. So every time anybody came in, the flies would be coming in, so we did our best to prevent that from happening. This faces south. Here is one of those fly collector bags that I put up, and it had that many flies in it in 3 hours. This is sticky stuff that the flies would stick to when they were trying to force their way into the bag. There's the bag from a different point of view. This is on our tack shed. They were all over that, so I put sticky things on there. And whoops, that is by the tack shed too. I think the pre-made bags were $10 a bag, and we just couldn't keep investing in those. So then we got the end that you put on the bottle and collected that way. There's more. And we had 2 years ago, we had a new shop built, and the flies were all over that, and it doesn't really look new anymore because of the fly poop. This is the door. They were all over the door. And that's the man door for the new shop. They were all over it. So every time you go in the shop, you get it full of flies. That's it again. That's it again. Now, this is in front of our raspberry canes, and it's only one piece of garbage, but this is lawn area, and I just took that to show that we're getting this plastic blowing on the lawns around the house. This is the raspberry bushes. They were covered with flies. Normally they produce a lot of raspberries, and I wanted to pick them, but I really didn't know whether we should eat them or not. Here's more garbage just in the area by the raspberry bushes. Here's on the corner of the house. So again, you know, we got new siding put up not that long ago, and we get fly specks all over it. These are, I painted all the outer doors. That was the previous year, and that is not flies on there, that's fly poop that I have to wash off of there. And there is more. And normally you don't see flies on rooftops and in the eaves, but they were even up there. Now this is stucco, that is not flies, but this is my daughter's house. And just, this is a semi-enclosed porch. And again, that's her main door, and just flies everywhere. Still her main door. And in there, they get inside the screen doors, storm door, and catch in there. So we put sticky stuff in there. That's the window of the her deck area. There they are again inside the storm door. And this is not for the whole summer. This is on a regular basis. We have to maintain that stuff. Okay, I have one more file that I want to show you. This is how it affects us. Now, I know it's affecting a lot of people. I'm not mentioning the smell because I can't picture that smell. But when we get up in the morning, if there has been smell the day before, and it's eased off from the house and you go in the basement, you get the full force of the smell in the basement because it went down there overnight. Okay, now there's a line of Carriganas in the field halfway between our house and the plant. And that's all collected with plastic and junk because the Carriganas collect it. So I didn't like the look of it, and admittedly, the people from the plant do hire people to pick up the large pieces of garbage in the field. But they're not going to crawl along underneath the Carriganas like the owner of the property would to get that stuff out of there before it builds up so much that you can't do anything with it. Here's our fence line midfield, and here's the Carriganas. There's more. It's mostly plastic bags and paper, but the trouble with it is, when you clear it out of there, it can be back a week or 2 weeks later, so it's not a job that you're going to have to do once in a while. It's a long row of Carriganas. Okay, then I took a walk down to the facility because I hadn't been there for a while. And here's Jim's truck parked down there, so you can get an idea of the size of the gyprock part of it. I think that's what it is anyway. Lots of birds. You're not getting the benefit of the birds shrieking at you as you walk there. Yeah, that's the gyprock. Birds in the fields, more birds in the fields. A little bit closer to Jim. Okay, this a little bit closer. This is our fence line, our south fence line, and it comes right up to the fence line and over underneath. And I'm not really sure what all that stuff is for. To me, it looks like trash. It's unsightly, but I suppose it's used for something. Now this, I took this because it's the drip line that you get along underneath the barbed wire fence, and that collects little tiny pieces of paper and plastic and junk that you can't get that out of there. So it's in here, it's on this side, our side of the fence, and that area of the land is unusable to anybody because we can't go there and pick all that up. Here's the junk along by our fence line. If we get a big rainstorm or whatever, I suppose more of it will flow down and go under there. And there's more of it. Okay, this is more, I don't know, I guess it's an area for the machines to get through. I'm not sure what that is for. This is walking east still along the fence line. This is the cattle guard full of junk there. And there's more. I'm not sure if you could ever make that into anything that could go in the soil and fertilize that for a crop. It's there anyway. Here's a million Franklin gulls that every once in a while they swoop up out of there in a big swarm and you get all the noise. Actually, it's louder than being on the docks in Vancouver. This was, I think it was a ditch for drainage, and it was headed directly to our property, but that's been blocked off. Now this is looking to the west along the pile, our fence line here, and more of it. I hadn't been there for a while, and what gets me is I didn't realize the quantity of it. That's taken looking south. There's more. Probably end up picking some of that up one of these days. That's looking to the west. more of it. I think this is, I think I'm repeating now. Oh no, not quite. This is just to show you how high it is. And more. Now this is a thing that my husband Jim said anyway, that it's a pipe where you can monitor the water quality. We have beautiful drinking water at our place, and I would hate to lose that, but I'm not sure how you can monitor all the water quality that comes from that huge plant with one thing. This is a cat with no tracks, and this is I forget what that's called, a conveyor for moving things up, but it's broken. And there it is again, and that's more stuff. And tires, they're used for something. And this, I took this for while we were there, Jim and I were there, trucks were arriving and you could see that there was stuff in them. And I just took that to get the size of the truck as it was going in. There was 3, I think, went in while we were there. But it is true that there are trucks going in there. We didn't see any really going out at that time. And I think that's the end of it. I just wanted to say in closing that if that's being good neighbors, all of our neighbors, they're excellent neighbors. We love all our neighbors around there. But we don't like these people, and we don't like looking at it. We don't like smelling it. We don't like hearing the noise. We don't like anything that they do. And actually it is, it's creepy when you go there and these masses of birds fly up and you get all the sound and you get all the horrid stuff, and it's like something out of a movie, and then you wonder, well, yeah, we don't like it, but why would we want something like that in Alberta even, or in Canada? So with that, I'll close. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any statement? Johnny, go ahead, please. Okay, you can be next.
Seaford, and I live about 3/4 of a mile to the east. And every nice day, southwest wind, you go out the door, take a deep breath, and step back in. It gags you. If you go to town, leave the windows open, it's a bad deal. You could come home and have your house full of it. This started 20 years ago this fall, and it started under the guise of a farm operation. And the county was aware that this operation was going to only work with animal products, manure from the feedlot on the farm. Therefore, none of the people around had to be notified. And we weren't. All at once, there's commercial equipment in, digging a pit, lining it with blue clay, and hey, what's going on? Now, the county missed the boat. They let this go on. And it was never licensed until Alberta Environment was approached and gave a license. In the meantime, all of us around are stuck. There's approximately 20 farms within a mile radius, and the smell hits them first, depending which way the wind is. Now it's going to Rocky Ford, it's going to Strathmore, and people are saying, hey, what's that smell? It's going to get bigger. It's on a 10-acre spot. Oh no, there won't be any kind of contamination of the land or of the water. Well, you saw the pictures Betty Lou had. The fence line is right there. And the rain comes down and it'll run right off and right into the fields. And how deep does it go in the soil? What about our groundwater? We don't even drink our well water anymore unless we boil it. We buy our drinking water. We're not too sure about this, and we're 3/4 of a mile away. When it first started, they said, oh no, there wouldn't be any flies. Well, counselor at that time was able to get a group of us in, and they dug into the side of what was then a small amount of stuff, and it was full of larvae, just full. If you cooked a roast in the summer and had your window open, the whole screen would be black with flies. It's no joke. Now, some strange things are happening. We've been living there for 45 years. We have a pond just outside our yard, about 4 acres, I guess, full of frogs, and they sing and sing. Last year, we didn't hear any. This year, there are a few little crooks. Why? Is there ground contamination, water contamination, or air contamination? Or does it have any bearing on this pit? We're wondering. On a certain day, there won't be any bees in our yard. The trees are blooming, mountain ash is full of blossoms. Normally it's full of bees. It's not the wind, not a big wind, but the bees aren't coming. Then they'll come back later. The seagulls mentioned raid all the nests of all the birds. There is a lake just adjacent to it that's over a mile long. And the birds, the ducks and the geese have nested there for years. The seagulls raid the nests. Last year, we usually have 6, 10 geese that kind of make their home over at our place, and they fly back and forth. So instead of 10, 12, 20 geese flying across, we have 1 pair this year. Something is wrong. I haven't seen any ducks yet. So, you know, it's not just people that this is affecting. It is the smell. It is the sight. How many counselors here have gone there? Anybody put up their hand? How many have seen this mess? If you're going to represent this county, you have to go and have a look at what other people here are faced with. And as one gentleman said, the land is devalued. I've heard of a real estate person that's just given up and trying to sell anything in that area. It just takes one little visit there and a big whiff of that smell sails off. I don't know what you can do at this point. They're covering the mixture of garbage that they bring in with sulfur. The idea is that it is a fertilizer. Elemental sulfur, as I understand it, does not break down properly for about 4 years to be a good fertilizer. So are they going to stockpile it somewhere, or are people just going to be unhappy when they get it and not buy anymore? That place is piled up, I'm going to guess 60 feet, and there's more than one range of mountains. One of them is covered with sulfur, one's covered with lime, one is being worked. They said last year, when they had the meeting in May, that they would not work on weekends because this has been a big concern. You couldn't enjoy a weekend outside, so no more working on weekends. Now they're working 24/7. They've got cats up on top of that at night. They've got big lights that are shining. As I said, we live 3/4 of a mile away, and they flashed into our bedroom at least twice last night. But if you look over there, you can see them, and you can hear the trucks backing up and everything, and the cats working. It's not for a farming district. People don't need this. It should never have been in the first place, and it should not stay. It should be out of there. I don't care what kind of a contract they have, it should be gone. They're talking about bringing out the green bins from Calgary. You're aware of the green bins. Every household in Calgary will have a green bin for compostable items. And they started this program, I think it was last week, they started collecting. Be every house. It'll be every school, every restaurant, Stampede, Spruce Meadows, you name it. Where does the garbage come from? A lot of it has come out here already. Now, are we prepared to take garbage from every house in Calgary if this contract goes through? There is a big composting site at the old raceway area, southeast of Calgary. What if they decide they're only going to take so much? How much can we get? What's going to happen? Now, is another cash-strapped farmer going to come and tell the county people, oh, they're just going to compost a little bit of their own manure and get the okay to do that? Maybe we could have lots of these through the county, if it's that easy to do. We're close to Calgary. They don't have to drive too far with their garbage. Maybe we could just open it up to everybody. It doesn't make you feel too good. I'm not too happy, obviously, and a lot of other people here aren't very happy. So I don't know. Alberta Environment has the license. We have the people who are not happy. So where do we go from here? Thank you.
John Eastman.
Mr. Chairman, John Kelvin. I leased the land from the Mercers directly where you saw in the pictures up to that fence line. And anyways, I just wanted the environment to kind of know the Alberta government has a little advertisement on TV of their clean air, and I'm a rancher and a cowboy, and the last scene in that advertising is a cowboy riding his horse in and takes a deep breath and he says, oh, just enjoy this fresh air. Well, I'm not going to really talk about the air quality. Like Opal says, we've been living with it for 20 years on and off, and in fact, I think you almost kind of get used to it, kind of like a pig farmer doesn't smell the pig smell as somebody else that isn't involved with it. But same thing if we get guests out, we're sitting on the deck, and you can walk into it just the way that breeze comes, and I'm a little concerned about this air quality testing thing because at a certain time, now we haven't really smelt it here for the last 3-4 weeks. So whether they're not moving some of that stuff, but I think the problem with a lot of this is they allow too much stuff to come in there that they can actually process. And a lot of that material that comes in to be properly composted, it has to go into a procedure to become a compost, where a lot of it I think gets dumped and it actually starts to rot. And I think this is where that real rank smell comes from, when they start moving this rotting material to try to get it into a compost. Anyways, the other concerns that I did have for myself being that close as well, we're just north of the Mercer place, is the water quality. We've never ever had anybody come back, and I've checked them wells. You've never seen any foot stamping around the grass around there. So how much testing is being done? Who gets the results of that? We would like to know what those results are ourselves, and it should come back into, at least to the county, so somebody has a record of those results. The other thing was, as Betty Lou showed this spring, we had all that garbage in there. They did send, there was 2 men in there for 2.5 days, maybe 3 on the second day. They took a whole truckload of garbage out of there, and that was basically the big stuff, leaving a lot of the little stuff. I missed a picture the other day. We're a cow-calf operation, and last fall we had broke that particular 70 acres. I broke about 30 acres of it. I run over 2 seagulls. They were so heavy in there while I was disking it. Well, they've got a smorgasbord at the plant. They've got that chunk of ground, and a half a mile further over is the lake. So they've got a great life there. Anyways, I had seeded the rye onto the stuff that I broke, and it was coming up nice, and it was totally white, as you saw in the pictures with seagulls. And I didn't think a seagull was a foraging bird, but they had cleaned that small purple plant coming out, pulled the seed out, whatever else. So I went back in and reseeded it, and I got a hold of Fish and Wildlife and says, what am I going to do about these seagulls? And they says, well, phone crop insurance to collect crop insurance, but seagulls aren't under the Migratory Act. So there I'm kind of stuck with that. Now, I did talk to Mark, I believe it was, and he said he would give me compensation, which I haven't seen as of yet. But I had put that rye in there to hope to get some fall grazing out of it, but because of the delay, I never got any fall grazing on it. As you can see in the pictures now, it was very green. And we're going to be turning our first calf heifers in there with their calves in the next week or so. And I'm quite concerned about the calves eating on these little pieces of plastic, or the environmental impact that we've got from that. Even the birds, these seagulls, are in this particular plant picking up stuff, leaving all their droppings on our ground. What kind of concerns? It's something that just really bugs the hell out of me to not really know what's there. And I just think that something's got to be done. We've got to have more information of what's actually in there, what's going, what products they are actually allowing in there. And like I said, I think the big thing is they have way too much product that they can turn over. And I think they need to clean that place up if they're going to actually do a job, and then start it out doing it right. And again, as Dennis mentioned, our property values are all down. I've got a section of ground directly to the west, and another quarter just to the east of it, to the northeast of it. I don't think, I'm not looking to put any acreages or subdivide it off, but at a point, that value is going to be hitting us fairly hard. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Hi there. My name's Bill Nyland. I live about a mile north of the facility. Terrible smell. I also operate a small power plant in Kettleland Feedlot's yard. And we've had numerous times on the feedlot where all of the workers were complaining of sore throats, itchy eyes, and terrible. You can't even breathe in it. I'd like to suggest that when they do the sampling, they do it when they turn the piles over. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get the results we want. Also, too, could we possibly tax these guys out of existence? Raise their taxes so high they can't operate? You know, instead of taking it from the little guys, let's jack their taxes up and.
We don't have that power.
Just a thought. Anyways, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Carolyn McDonald. My husband and I own a acreage, 15 acres, just about a quarter of a mile south of the plant. We've lived there for 10 years, and so I know what has kind of evolved there. I'm a registered nurse for 30 years, and I also exercise my horses every morning along that canal, so I can tell you the smell has I wear a mask sometimes. The sulfur concerns me. I know it is, looking on the MDS sheets, it's a category 2, which can cause a respiratory irritation. I myself have had some of that as well. Now, I rode this morning. There's garbage all over where I ride, where the canal is. I do ride down the from my property down to the canal, which is on Road 250. And I meet a truck every 2 minutes now. Now, my picture window, if you can picture 100 yards, that's what I'm visualizing, is these trucks going by every 2 to 5 minutes. And it is very unpleasant. That is a really big concern, as well as our property devaluation and our health concerns, of course. So, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Go ahead, please.
My name is Mike Matthew. I live near the Nightingale area. I think everyone here is, feels the same way, where nobody wants it, this facility there. They seem to be operating with a bit of an arrogance that, let's just take as much matter as we can into the place and not process it properly. I'd be curious to hear what the individuals here have to say for the company that they represent.
All right. Anyone care for any more comments?
Yeah. I mean, where are you guys coming from? We want to know what are you guys doing? You see all these people here. Okay. We're not happy.
I can't make.
Oh well, business as usual.
Keep your comments to the chair, please. Okay.
I'm done.
Anybody else have anything they want to say? Please.
Yeah, almost good afternoon. Thanks for hearing our comments and whatnot. I'm a little upset that the concerns that you have as a county. I just wanted you to know that we kind of hope that you guys will go to bat for us, at least speak on our behalf, and not redirect us to other meetings and some more bureaucrat stuff down the road that we're probably not going to be able to handle. So, but anyway, thank you very much for that. I'm not going to repeat a lot of stuff. I just want to thank the Mercers for the pictures. I didn't know that we could do that, or I would have brought my own, because it's horrific. It's offensive. It stinks. I can't get my family to come out. My grandchildren can't come out. My daughter hates it. When that wind is coming out of that direction, by the way, I live about roughly a mile, maybe a little less than a mile straight west. And Canada hasn't tested my water, and I ended up spending $7,000 on a water system because of too many chloroforms. I asked him what happened. He goes, a few leaves aren't going to do that. Stuff flows downhill. I know it's an aquifer. I'm not accusing anybody of contaminating my water, so understand that. But the potential is there. And in order for me to be able to resell my house, I had to spend $7,000. The siding of my house, I've actually had bulging siding come out, and what's behind it? Dead flies. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dead flies. Siding bulging out the side of my house. I couldn't believe it. The seagulls. I've been in dumps. I've hauled rendering plants. I've hauled to rendering plants. I've been side of rendering plants hauling dead material out of Fletcher's years ago. And it was like smelling roses compared to what we're smelling here. It is so offensive. And I really hope we're not talking to deaf ears here. I hope that somebody can help us to manage this somehow. I understand that it's a usable product that people need or want. I don't know, but boy, I sure hope that we get somewhere with this and get some solutions, Council, to help us out. I just want to share that with you guys and let you know that it is a very serious matter, and I hope you do treat it that way and help us. And with that, I think that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Rod Late. I'm from Nightingale area as well.
I just wanted to mention, like, I came into the area probably 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and Strathmore has always been an agricultural community, and feedlot operations are a big part of it. The feedlots put a lot of money into the economy in Strathmore, and when you come into Strathmore, you realize you're coming into that, and you put up with the manure trucks running, and the smell, and the piles, and the spreading in the fields, and the noise and stuff at certain times of the year. You deal with that because it does put a lot into our economy, and we realize that Strathmore is agriculture and feedlots. But something like this comes into the area, and like I say, maybe it started out a little different than it is now, but bringing in the waste from these other places. And again, I know there's got to be some place for it to go, or some way to manage this solution. But again, when it comes into our neighborhood, like I say, it's different when you come in and you realize you're coming into an agricultural community. You have to deal with what you're moving into, right? But when it comes into your community, I think that's where the change is, right? And that's what's making everybody upset, is that, you know, it's no longer just the feedlot. And like I say, I don't know anybody that works at that plant. Or does it put money back into our economy? Like, do you see the people? I know people that work at all the feedlots in the area, and farmers and ranchers that are in and out of town all the time and working the land and everything. I don't know anybody that works at that plant, right? So what does it do for us, right? Other than we have to deal with their smell. And the smell is the biggest issue, I think, for most people. Anyway, I don't want to be too repetitive. Thanks, Rex. You had a great point, too. I didn't want to repeat too much what you said. All right, thank you.
Any other ratepayers have? Okay.
Hello, I'm Debbie Murray. I'm with CIR Realty here in Strathmore. I've been selling real estate for 11 years. And of late, I've had clients drive up that road that's just to the east of it and say, call me up and say, holy hell, Debbie, what's going on? All these acreages are for sale. And I said, well, where are you? I'm on my computer and I'm trying to figure out where you are. And sure enough, I figure out where he is. And I said, yeah, you see that one to the left? Well, this is priced at what the price was, and the one to the right is this price. I said, take a minute and unroll your window, would you? It was the heat of summer. His comment was, holy hell, what is that smell? And I said, as a realtor, I have to disclose to you everything I know about the property and the area. So with that being said, I've had to disclose to my clients the potential of the smell and would they like to live there. So yes, it is devaluing the property. I have statistics of the terminations and the expired in the areas. The actual solds are very limited. There's 2 that are active on the market that have been, the days on market are accumulating because people are having trouble selling their properties. So it's not just that, it's people's livelihood too and their investments, because their acreages are the biggest investments of their lives for most people. And we hate to see that devalue. What I would really like to have is a solution to tell my clients, this is what's going on, this is how it's being fixed in the year 2019, whatever. I would like to have that information to move forward and be able to sell those properties for those people. Thank you.
Anybody else? Please go ahead.
I'm Colin Huxted, and I didn't want to be here. I don't want to speak on behalf of this, but I have issues at the site out at our place. We've had to cancel a wedding that we're going to have out there because we can't take a chance of the smells and stuff. But everything you guys are talking about and hearing today, it can be all fixed. Composting isn't a bad thing, but it can be done poorly or bad. The 2 gentlemen here, they're from that site. I was not going to speak because I have a conflict of interest. I have a site in Strathmore, and we do school tours through our site. We take them through the buses, the bus loads through, and there is no smell. It's an earthy smell. It's a silage smell when it's done right. But if you're taking in too much product, and that's what we discussed last, I'm nervous because I know I shouldn't be up here. But last June,
Okay? Maybe you'll speak after Mark, because the people need to know what's going on. We're allowed 20,000 ton a year, and there's a reason why you're allowed 20,000, is because it takes a lot of wood chips. It takes a big process to do this stuff, and to do it properly, it has to be done. These guys switched to aeration in June, July? When? December? Okay, I thought it was going to be happening in September, but I guess you guys were a little delayed. The aeration, what it does is it blows oxygen into, to do good compost, you have to have nitrogen, you have to have oxygen, you have to have carbon, and you have to have moisture. And when they're all working right, there is no smells. And like I said, it's an earthy smell, and the product is finished in about 4 months. If they bring in too much, and everybody here is saying that they see truckload after truckload after truckload coming in, there's no way they can produce that much. They can't finish the procedures. So then this stuff rots, and it turns into like a leche, and that's the bad stuff, and that's the stuff that smells. That's the stuff that seeps in the water. They do have monitoring stations. They have to. You guys are a class 1, right? Not a class 2. So that was said earlier today. Are you a class 1 or a class 2? But a class 1 or a class 2? Class 1 brings in food waste, biosolids, all that stuff. But it doesn't smell any worse than garden and grass. Grass can smell too, but if you're doing the right process, you're okay with it. But everybody here is saying there's truckload after truckload after truckload. Those trucks weigh 30 ton.
Let's keep the comments. I'll give you ample time after.
I guess it's my fault. Yeah, I was asking the questions. I'm sorry about that. I should be addressing it to you.
We can't all hear.
Okay. I know what happened to those guys. They just took in, before they bought the place, they took in too much. They're still maybe taking in too much. They have set up aeration. It is working. Myself, I've asked Brad come out to our place when we had some people out there working that quit because they were throwing up. They couldn't work any longer. Brad came over and he says, yeah, I know over at our site, my eyes are watering. Here it's bad too, but we're kind of limited to when we can turn the piles, because if the wind blows the wrong way, Strathmore gets it, or your neighborhood gets it, or my gets it. Composting isn't bad. We just need to operate it properly. We need to work together. Alberta Environment, they have to have a report done. I believe it's every March. You have to hand it in. You have to say how much feedstock you've brought in, how much you produced. I'm not saying Alberta Environment doesn't come out there and check on that all the time, but they don't. I open and operate one. You're supposed to send it in to them. When I asked Alberta Environment to come out to look at our place, the 2 members that came out, they had to book a truck to come to our place. And then I said, they asked how to get to my place. And I said, let me know when you get to the corner. I'll come pick you up, phone me. But we have to book out a cell phone. So it's not like they're not like the RCMP. It's not like the police. They don't, unless we make enough stink like they have, we're not going to change things. We have to work together and help these guys get back on track and get it done right. It's not a bad thing, and it's going to happen everywhere. We can't keep putting stuff in landfill, but we have to make sure it's done right. And that's all I've got to say.
Anybody else? And please, yes.
My name is Shelley Marshall. I'm very happy to say that I've just bought an acreage right next to that property, unbeknownst to me what would come of that. So we've been working very diligently to get this place looking so nice, to keep the garbage out of it, and then I see these trucks go repeatedly by our property, continually, like you said with your horse riding. So now is it my responsibility to pay for the dust control that is definitely harming my respiratory system? Right next to me, we have this beautiful family with 4 young children, and I see these trucks flying down that road. What's going to take for one of their little preschoolers to happen to be just a little too close to the edge of that road? The trucks, the dust, they'll go chasing their little animal one day, and I don't know what's going to happen there. So we think that this is paradise to own these acreages, and it's sad to say that all of this is happening. Can the roads stand all this traffic that that the trucks are traveling on? I don't know, another thought for us too.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to speak on the trucks. I actually had to fill out an RCMP report. We had one of those trucks fly by my kid's bus, and it's not good, you know, having all that traffic out there. It makes me nervous. I won't let my kids go anywhere near the road. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So my name is Katie Kevin. I actually live, I think, 6 miles from the site. I've heard you all talk and how close you live. I live quite a ways. Now, I'm maybe an abnormality to this community. I am a homeschooling mom with 3 small children. We came to this community, well, I came here because my husband grew up here, and his family's been here for almost 200 years. And our goal with our family is to raise our children in order to, that they may, you know, produce their own food and, you know, have a cow to milk and have eggs to collect and put good things in their bodies and teach them about how we can use the resources that we can make with our own hands and all those kind of things, right? That's really important to, I think, not only me, but the rest of our community. My son goes out to the barn, and before he gets back in, he's gagging. Now, my background is in medicine. It does not take a blood test, or it doesn't take, what's all the testing you talked about? Environmental testing. For me to know that to read the toxicology reports of sulfur, I know very well what sulfur does in the body. It gives you, I burned sulfur in front of me on a sidewalk. I know very well that it gives you itchy, burning eyes, that it hurts your throat, that you cough and you gag. It's a very, very nasty smell for anyone who's worked with sulfur. It's awful. And my kids are smelling this. They can't even make it from the barn back to the house where it's safe. We also have a homeschool room in our basement that we cannot use because, like you shared, someone shared about going down to the basement. So the smell kind of settles in our basement. Now, it's been better over the last little bit, but as soon as that wind comes a certain way, you know, we can no longer be, we definitely can't take a bus of school children through our farm, right? Like Colin shared that he can do at his facility. So I am concerned about the health impact of this. And I know that composting is a great thing. Now, I'm an Ontario girl, and I grew up out there. I've never smelt a feedlot. But I can tell you now, I know the difference between the feedlot smell, and it does smell like roses compared to what I'm smelling on, you know, a regular, all too often regular basis from that, what we think is biocycle. Thank you.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone. Would you care to make a statement? Sure.
Good afternoon. So my name is Mark Grunert. I'm with BioCan, previously BioCycle. I just want to comment on a few of the points that were made so we can clear up any misconceptions. So I'm unprepared, as we found out last minute from our one of the ratepayers, our landlord, that this meeting was happening. So, but I just want to talk on a few things. So there's some conversation about workforce and benefit to the community. Over 50% of our workforce are Wheatland County or Strathmore residents. Many of the transportation companies that work for us are in the Wheatland County area. They have 5 tractor trailers, they have 4 tractor trailers, they have Tracos, all those things. So there is investment back into the community, and we actually come out to job fairs and look for those residents so that we can employ people in the local area. There's some discussion about Calgary green carts and potentially that volume coming to the Strathmore area. The green card program, other than the small trial amount that they had, that's all going to be contained within Calgary. And the limitations that are the restrictions that we follow with Alberta Environment, we're restricted to the same volume of tonnage that we currently get. just touching on a few things on truckloads. So we have multiple items that come into that facility. We have nutrients, we have drywall, we have off-spec elemental sulfur, and then we're also shipping out products in regards to our fertilizer. So the trucks that are coming in, the nutrients are restricted to a volume. Additional tonnage is other items. Just some comments made on Alberta Environment. So we see Alberta Environment on a regular basis, whether it be the inspector at Alberta Environment. He comes out and was actually out for an inspection probably about a month ago to our facilities. So they regularly come to our facility, regularly we'll have a discussion with whether it's an inspector or whether it's someone in administration there. And we do have multiple composting facilities, so we deal with Alberta Environment on a regular basis. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're not unfair with the regulator, that they're highly involved in our operations. But that being said, I can only comment to so many of the comments that are made. Be happy to address council another time if they had specific questions for us, and we could be prepared for those. We'd certainly be happy to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Brenda? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What are they willing to do about the smell?
I wished I could. Council's limited. You just heard the last gentleman said the regulators, Alberta Environment. It's our job to convince Alberta Environment, Alberta Health, that there's a problem here. But by you all turning up here, I think that it's very important. Alberta Health here to witness it, for sure. On your way out, I'm thinking maybe if you would all sign your name and the contact information, we can give it to Alberta Health and they can follow up with this. I'll do whatever I can. I don't know what council can do as far as taxing it. That's something we can't do. Stopping the smell, we can't do that either. We're just here to help you people try and get the information out, try and get it to the appropriate people that make these decisions, and have them come out and do a proper investigation, I think, and would be a place to start at. But yeah, I wish we could do more, but we can't. Yes.
What's the definition of a proper investigation, and what's the consistency of this? What's going to happen over that?
I've been thinking, as everybody's been coming up here and speaking, I'm thinking if we'll make a motion that we ask our municipal affairs minister to conduct or maybe, I don't know, participate, maybe facilitate an investigation by Alberta Health and by Alberta Environment, that that's all we can do that I know of. We'll ask lawyers and stuff too, but we'll ask them, but I don't know what we can do. But we can certainly write a letter to our minister, ask him to facilitate an inquiry into Wheatland County and the surrounding.
Through the chair,
Okay.
to Glenn and the public, I understand where Glenn's coming from, and I understand where the public's coming from. But I think to start with, we have a recommendation from staff here to bring out, because if we go to the minister, we got to have something to present to the minister. We can't just tell him that there's a bad smell. We have to have something to come back where we're coming from. And I think the start of it is the recommendation that's before us to allow this Calgary Regional Airshed Zone monitoring to come out and monitor it, give us some data that allows Alberta Health to look at that data. They might be able to come up with some answers for it. But until we have that information, all we can do is as Glenn says, communicate with environment, tell them there is an issue and we're looking into some parts of it, and that starts the process, I guess.
Yes, and I've asked to speak to environment. So if
I'm
nobody else-
asking anybody interested, if they want to speak, they can speak. Alberta Environment here.
Yeah, I would like to speak to Alberta Environment. if
You
I can
had your
some
hand up
questions.
before. Go ahead, please. Please.
Hi, my name is Danielle Harwood. So I'm just kind of going on further what you exactly just said. We've all complained here today with the smell, and what is going to be done about it is what we all want to know. So in going forward, when you had started, Norm, you had said you could do air quality testing, and in that document that you, sir, had showed with all of us, that was what was to do. In that document, as it was stated, it is not a class 2, it is a class 1. We need to treat this as a class 1, which means they are taking in a lot more bad stuff. Class 2 has got a level down, class 1 is bad stuff. So first of all, we need to amend that document, then hand it to Health and Safety. Health and Safety can then look into what a class 1 details, what brings it in. This is what, like you were just saying as well, Glenn, to make a motion. I think on behalf of everybody here, we would like to see the county make sure that in this motion that these items are in there, that this is a class 1, what is in a class 1, what is the proper way to put a compost facility in that is a class 1. You had said you cannot look into wildlife. You said it's just air quality in your statement. Who is looking into the wildlife around there? Are they getting hurt? Is this affecting other things like that? Can in the motion somebody from maybe the Alberta Environment with Wildlife Division or something like that look into that? As well, during this air monitoring, like another gentleman had said, we need to make sure it's when they stir those piles. We all don't smell it right now, but the minute they stir those piles, boy, we all are throwing up. It's stuck in our houses. It comes in the windows. It doesn't get out for weeks. It is awful. It doesn't matter how many candles you light. It is awful. So again, making in the motion that they must stir those piles during that time, because say for the month of June, they just don't stir those piles, that air monitoring, everything would be fine. I don't agree with that. How are we getting an accurate description if they're not going to stir those piles during that time? Also, someone else mentioned safety data sheets with WHMIS. We're all familiar with that, and we've had a job. I teach WHMIS. I'd be interested to see on the WHMIS and everything that's in that biocycle facility, if that is being followed. There's a lot of really bad things, like people said, watery eyes. These are all things that I know for a fact in the county here. If there was an issue like that in here with following the county, I heard great things about the health and safety program here. You know, it would be shut down. I know it would. If you guys were running, you know, if that problem existed here in this office. You know, if even a sample of that came in right now, that is as bad as when it's all blowing in our houses. If it was in this room right now, I'm pretty sure people would be asked to evacuate the building and into fresh air. But when it's blowing into our own house and we can't, what are we supposed to do with that? So that's another thing. Also, in that same motion that we're following, like I said, if we could amend your sheets or whatever we're moving forward with here, that water sampling issue, like we all talked about, can we have in there? Let's have some water sampling done. Every side of that facility, in the facility, every neighbors around there. You know, these are all points that I would like to see in that document to move forward, to give us all some hard, fast evidence, I guess, or, and again, it's not to out and get you, but let's just learn about it. Everybody's complaining, let's do something about it. So these are all just my concerns, like I say, especially because I had phoned Alberta Environment myself last year. It's a class 2 facility, you know, yada, yada, yada. It is a class 1 facility. So there is incorrect information. And again, all air monitoring was to be set in by fall. They had told me that from the complaints officer myself. As they had just said, somehow it ended up December. So things, again, I don't think we want to be sitting here again next spring, all of us saying, well, it was supposed to be, like, we need, you know, and again, the county's backing. Again, sir, I know you said it doesn't have to do with you guys a bit, but it kind of does, right? We need to know that we're all together as one. Mm-hmm. It's affecting that road. Anybody who's drove down that Fireguard Road, it's awful. It's beat, you know, if we drove it and beat up those roads, that's why they have road bans. You know, I don't understand why there's not a DOT sitting there every day checking those trucks. If it's a commercially run facility, You know, where's DOT on pulling over those trucks? I would love to see what finds out about that. You know, Alberta Transportation maybe needs to be involved. Like, these are all other groups. Like you said, you guys can't do it, but there is, you know, OH&S, Alberta Transportation. These are all things, I think us neighbors, feel free, let's talk about it. If all of us phone all of these organizations, I think we could possibly have a big enough voice to get somewhere. So anyway, thank you.
Just excuse me. Just a couple questions. Did you say you were from Alberta Environment? Okay. Just a neighbor, okay. You phoned Alberta Environment then. It's my hearing. Okay, you all have. Okay. Is Alberta Environment here? Yes? Do you have anything you'd like to say?
James Jorgensen, I'm with Alberta Environment. I probably spoke to most of you on the phone over 2016 at some point or another. Related to the odor, this meeting today has gone a little different than what I expected because this was all supposed to be about air monitoring quality and that kind of thing. But so I want to be a little bit careful where we go with this right now. But it came on my radar pretty strong back in about, I think, January 2016. It's really when it kicked up. There was a lot of phone calls came in over a very short period, a few days. They all came to my desk, and I spoke to most of you then. And what happened was there was some wind. We had an unusual year last year. Remember last spring we had like no moisture whatsoever, no snow. Things were thawing out very early. Biocan had some windrows that were frozen over the winter, and then they thawed. They got in there and started working them, and in that time they had gone anaerobic. Now I know Colin had mentioned you need, you know, your nitrogen, your carbon, moisture, and you need oxygen. That's the big one. When they go anaerobic, lack of oxygen, they smell bad. That's your septic tank. That's how your septic tank works, and it breaks stuff down anaerobically. These windrows went anaerobic. They started working them. Gas odor was released. It was strong. We got numerous complaints on it. We jumped on it right away. We're out at Biocan immediately. I took one of my industrial approval engineers with me, went out, talked to them. We forced their hand to put in mechanical aeration. Up until that point, they were using windrows. The windrows are too big. There was too much material on site to make good compost, not from a regulatory standpoint, because we only regulate what they can receive in a year. And the windrows themselves weren't a proper way to operate a compost facility. They were too much. We forced their hand. They put in mechanical aeration. Their original promise, all you heard me say, was June. Well, that got delayed, and we'd go out there and light a fire again. And it got delayed and delayed, and I was getting pretty upset with them. I think it was probably around September. I gave Mark a call, and he heard Angry James. They got the stuff in. Since my last odor complaint I got for that facility was October 2016. Since then, I have not got a single odor complaint. That's for many of you. So in my mind, that's telling me, well, you know what? The mechanical aeration worked. They changed their operation. We ground them down and rolled them hard enough that they got things straightened out. Now, a lot of the other issues here I can't speak to. I can't speak to transportation. I can't speak to a lot of the other issues you guys are bringing up today. But from an environment perspective, the complaint stopped. So we got a lot of files to look after. I'm not going to ride them, but I'm not getting complaints. It started in January last year, and like I say, I haven't got any yet. Today. I've called a couple times in the new year here. Have you? Yeah. To the 1-800 number? Yeah, I've even got the number. The reference number? The reference number as well. About odor? Yeah. Okay, but they haven't made it to my desk. You got to be very specific when you do call in the location you're talking about, right? Because the call center's in Edmonton, right? They're just people that answer the phone. They just take your information and beam it out. Yeah. If there's an odor issue and it's legitimate, use the 1-800 for your odor issues and that kind of complaint. We are not there for transportation, though. We can't talk about Department of Transportation and that kind of stuff. What they're doing are your roads. And that's one thing I do want to express to you here, because I'm hearing from council that you say you guys are hands tied, you can't do anything. It's all within the bounds of Alberta Environment. Well, I'm sorry. Your bylaws still apply. We don't take your bylaws, put them on a shelf. They still apply.
What bylaw?
I don't know what you guys have in place to deal with your county, but what I'm hearing when I'm sitting over there is,
and I get this at a lot of council meetings, whether it's not maybe Wheatland before, but other councils I spoke to, is they like to download onto Alberta Environment and let us try to deal with it all. And that's fine. We will do what we can that we have authority for. We don't have authority under the MGA. That's your guys.
So I'm going to be looking in. So you're talking about the original development permit?
I'm not involved in that part. I don't have authority over that. I have authority for a compost facility to be registered to a code of practice. They have to follow that code of practice. That's where my authority lies.
Okay. We'll be checking on it. Thank you.
You guys develop
So
your own
moving
bylaws.
forward,
Yes.
what do you suggest?
A year ago, or maybe, yeah, what do we got, May 1st? A year ago, this air monitoring thing, I think, would have been ideal. Let's do it. I'm not getting the complaints. I mean, it's always good information to have, but as said earlier, you got to hit it in the right days when the wind's perfect. Now, the MAML, it's a mobile air monitoring unit. So basically, it's a big RV with a bunch of instrumentation in it. And it'll drive around, it'll measure the wind speed and direction, and it'll park right in the plume coming off. So they'll line it up, they'll see the winds blowing, and they'll try to get... Now, they're restricted by the county roads, right? They're not going off-road, they're going to stay on the gravel roads, and that kind of thing. So they will be a little bit restricted on accessibility to certain sites, depending on the wind and what it's doing. And the air quality itself, it really depends on what's going on that site that day.
Okay.
So, but information is always good, data is always good, right? In my mind, it helps. It gives you something, whether it's, we didn't get anything, no hits, well, then what are we going to do? Or we did get hits. If you get hits, it's going to be a challenge now because it's ambient air. And I know everybody loves a feedlot in this building, but we will not enforce on ambient. That's why when you look at the Alberta limits, there are no limits for ambient air quality. Because we cannot, we have limits for point source, a stack. We'll put limits on that because they can measure in stack and what's coming out. We have limits on a discharge, say, from a wastewater treatment plant where that water is flowing out. But ambient air, we have guidelines. They're not enforceable. They're just simply guidelines that when you build in that community, you know, whether it's a cumulative effects kind of concept and you want to bring in a new industry, there's guidelines there saying you should probably meet these guidelines. That'd be your best interest to these, but they're not, from Alberta Environment Compliance guy, enforcement guy, they are not limits. They're only guidelines.
So if the county, I'm just thinking, made a bylaw about ambient air quality.
Ambient air quality? You'd be challenged. I mean, you could try, but your lawyers wouldn't let you do it, I bet. Because you can't say it's BioCan. You can't say it's that particular feedlot. There was a feedlot north of there. I believe one of the gentlemen was here. Where the power plant is. A few years ago, we were dealing with the same kind of thing coming out of there because they were drying manure. Ambient, it's tough. It's good information to have, but it's tough to enforce. Odor is super tough to enforce because what is the odor? Now you got to understand the chemistry of that odor. What are you measuring for it? Will it be VOCs? Will one 24-hour canister capture what you need? Might. You can get a definite yes if you get a hit, but you get a definite no, might have missed it that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In 2015, there was legislation. The site had to put up a bond.
Yeah.
If they were to fail or not operate properly. Everybody that applied for a new one, I was one that applied for it. I had to put that bond before I got my class one. Guys that were grandfathered back and have a class one, all of them have paid their surety bonds. And it's all regulated on how much material they bring in case this place was to fail.
Yeah.
Who's left holding the bag?
So it's a financial
So
security.
Is the landowner going to have to clean it up? If that landowner goes broke, is then the county going to have to clean it up and then our taxes go? Like, is there enforcement to make sure everybody's paying that bond that's still operating today?
So we call it a financial security, and a lot of the new facilities, like you said, we've always had it in place, but we haven't, and this is not in my compliance world, so I'm not an expert on this topic. This is the approval guys and the scientists, the engineers and all that do that. Yeah, exactly. So they look at your site currently, they'll assess your site and the impact of cleaning that site up. So if they close the doors tomorrow, walk away, throw the keys in the counter, and everything's left behind, what would it cost for a cleanup? To haul that material out, to decommission, you know, if it's a big industrial process, to decommission that equipment, haul it out, and all that kind of stuff. There's a calculation for that, and they fill it out, big form, they get a number at the bottom, and that's your financial security.
If that company didn't pay their bond and it went under for
I don't know.
then the county and then all us ratepayers.
I don't think I don't know what to say on that. Probably the landowner would be the one we'd work with on that. Again, that's out of my wheelhouse. I've never dealt with that one. I don't have a good, and I can speculate, but I don't want to give you false information either.
Well, it was in January 2015. It was a brand new law that was legislated. Have you guys paid that surety bond? I know you did in Tabor. It's not registered. Oh, everybody, it names the land location. Right? Like mine's there, Tabor's there, my river's there. But those are just there's little red lights and red flags that smells, the odors, the amount of trucks, the volume. All these people here, a lot of these guys have been phoning me. The reason why I came here today and didn't want to speak is I got calls when I was away on holidays that it was mine that was smelling. I'm afraid mine's not smelling, but I'll be home right away and we'll check into it. It wasn't. It was EPCOR that was doing their files, their centrifuging. That's what was smelling. Like I said, we take classes. We're teaching people how to do this stuff. You guys need to bring these people out to your site. Show them your site. Show them what you're doing to improve it. Get Alberta Environment. The reason why people aren't phoning Alberta Environment, everybody gave up. Yes. Everybody gave up. Nothing done.
Is it? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So then I started, I'm sorry for swearing. So then I started taking calls, and then I have a conflict here because I have my own, and we're actually competing, but I'm not competing with you. I'm not bringing stuff in from outside our area. The stuff that you smell from mine, if you ever smell it, it's your area. The stuff you're smelling from there. And Mark told me you guys were going to slow down. You're going to quit taking something so you got a handle on it. I heard this gentleman say just a few minutes ago that you hadn't slowed down. You told us in June that you were going to have it done before September. I stood up then and said you won't have it done in September. Neil has taken too much. Those piles are from 10, 12 years old. You get on top of them with your excavator, you can't reach them. When she said 60 feet, she's 60 feet. We're that high, so that stuff at the bottom has gone rotten. Yep. And I don't know how many months we're all going to still, there's nothing these guys can do but make us smell here until it's done. They need to bring more wood chips in, they need to do it properly, but we're all going to have to take this smell for, and you know that, Mark, you know it's going to be a year before you process those piles.
We are doing it properly.
With the stuff that's coming in.
James was out for a
It's the old stuff.
The engineers was out for a visit. So, I don't think it's right to say that we're not doing it properly.
The new stuff.
Get them in for a tour of our facility.
Not back and forth, please. Okay. We realize it's opinions for sure.
Through the chair, I know we've heard everybody here and their complaints, and we're well aware of the complaints, and I've been making some notes on it. And I know when it came in originally, and I kept going through my mind, and I keep wondering that there was volumes on it when it came through originally. And I think it's up to us. It's our development permit. It was us that allowed it to go in there. You're right. Environment has a place in there to play.
Absolutely.
But it's our development permit. We're the ones that redesignated the land. We're the ones that allowed it to originally start. And it's grown to what it is now. So I think it's up to council to review our development permit, to review the whole process, take a look at it, and Colin, you're right. Composting isn't bad. It's good. We should all be doing it. And if it's done right, yeah, there's a little odor, but it's not like what they're complaining about. And I agree with you. I think they've got way too much product on that site to keep hauling it in. And unless they're stopped, it'll never stop. That product has to stop coming in until it's cleaned up, and then they start over from ground zero and go. And it may be a hardship to them, but I think that's the only way you're going to get through what's going on out there. So with that, I put the recommendation on that we start with this, and then council will work with our administration to go back and deal with whatever else is going on out there, whichever way we can. And that includes environment, it includes Alberta Health, and anybody else in the department that we can use to to try and alleviate your concerns.
I didn't say it means nothing. I just mean it's not going to be definitive. It's not going to give you an absolute yes or an absolute no, and it won't pinpoint it on a map to say it's this 10-acre site.
We're not, through the chair again, we're not going to stop just because we get one report. There's other issues going on here. This is just one issue that we're dealing with, and we had to put some money in it. If it's outside what our budget, it comes to council. Council has to approve it. If we don't approve it, it doesn't happen. So we've got the recommendation in front of us to go ahead with that, see if we can get some information, and whatever information we get might help environment, might help Alberta Health. I don't know. Until I see that information, I don't know that, but we have to start somewhere. But we still have to follow through on some places from council.
Okay. One more comment then.
Could we also pursue then air, water, land, right? We got 3 departments. Can we go that way? Can we not own the roads?
We're stewards of the roads, yeah. We're stewards of the road. Yeah, the public.
I can tell you right now, I had a water test this year when in Canada was water testing. My water is different than it was 3 years ago.
Well, part of what I've been writing here, like I said, I've been writing down, is water well monitoring reports. And if they've got water wells out there, there should have been reports or monitoring done on it. And I would, hopefully council would request that we get at least 2 or 3 years of monitoring in the past, plus what's going forward. And if they can't supply that, then why are the wells there? There's got to be something around that. So, like I said, it's council has to step up to the plate and do some of the things that we're saying we're going to do, but it's going to take time.
Go ahead.
Is there any way that we can talk about getting our taxes reduced until this problem's solved? Is there any way for me to come in here and say, listen, I disagree with this, my property value's dropped $200,000 because of this place?
Where if you get the the only way sorry the only way your taxes, assessment, mill rate, if your assessment of your property value has truly gone down and convince the assessor of that, then your taxes will be lower. But you have to convince the assessor.
We could just have him come up with their turn in the pile.
There you go. Yeah, got them assessing on a good day. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain Ben's motion. Council got any questions?
What was your name, sir?
James Jorgensen. J-O-R? Yeah, G-E-N-S-E-N.
Okay.
Not related to anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
My parents came off the boat.
Okay. Ben's made a motion that we approve the recommended action. Any questions?
I have one comment, please. It's
One
just
comment.
a comment. And that's directed toward James, actually. He says that he hasn't heard from any of us for a long time. That's because we've given up. It's still there. So I want everybody to phone phone the Alberta hotline, Alberta Environment and Parks hotline. When you do that, ask for a reference number. And make sure that your comment is directed to the compost facility. And if you need a site, a land location, that's what I was looking for. If you need land location, phone me or phone the company. But that's why you haven't heard from us, James, because
Fair
I've
enough.
given up.
Yeah, I mean,
I was out there yesterday on my horse. Oh my God.
see, I had faith in the mechanical aeration. I thought, okay, they fixed it. Great. Now there's odor sticks in the community, whether it still smells or not. I've dealt with a lot of public complaints, that kind of thing, and I'm not saying your issues aren't real, but a company gets a reputation, they kind of piss off the community. They solve the problem, but the community is angry for a long time after. And so we are not going to be used in a sense that way either. So if you want to call the 1-800, if you have a legitimate complaint where it's truly odor, not just you're mad at the company today and you're feeling really grumbly, it's got to be a legitimate environmental concern, then give us a call, absolutely, anytime. 24/7.
Make sure you phone
Yeah.
the Alberta hotline, ask for a reference number, and then we'll get to James.
Oh,
Okay,
I knew
can
you
we
were gonna
get
ask
that information after? We got a long day still.
No, I don't know.
Okay, Ben's made a motion, accept the recommended action. Any questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And it's lunchtime.
I would like to thank the county for actually taking the steps
It's thanks for coming in. It's makes the job a lot easier when we see the level of concern that there is. Thanks for taking time out of your busy days and coming in.
At the meeting, I'm supposed to call it at 12:30.
Oh. Huh? We have an appointment at 1.
These are appointments.
I have an appointment at 1. Quarter after? Okay.
Glenn? Hi, how are you?
Good.
I haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is there any way that they can stop the trucks from coming in till they deal with it and straighten it out?
It's a public road. I know there are roads.
Yeah, you can't stop them. But is
If
there
they're
any...
doing something wrong,
Yeah.
peace officers go out.
Yeah, that way, but until they deal with the problem, there isn't any way you can stop them. Yeah. I'm a nightingale now.
Yeah?
We traded our acreage. Yeah.
Well,
So I get
enjoy
that
it
smell.
there.
I love it. We got a new house out there. We traded straight across. No money, nothing. Just traded straight across. They moved us all. And it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I love it out there.
We got a lot of interest here.
Oh yeah. Oh, you have to do something. Yeah.
But something that was approved 20 years ago was not
It's
what's
not
there
your
now.
fault. No, I mean you got to clean it up.
Yeah.
You know, have fun.
Somebody made it bigger, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Good to see you again.
Yeah.